I specialize in making money. Lil Jon used to always say to me, you're Lil Jon Gotti, you're Lil Jon Gotti. I'm like the original ghost. I move behind the scenes. I was never flashy because I always had a saying, fuck the flash, I just want the cash. So I actually was raised as a Jehovah's Witness by my mom. We'd go to the Kingdom Hall on Sundays, on Thursdays, on Tuesdays they had what you call book study. But when I would walk, we would walk from my house to the Kingdom Hall, and on the way back, so we have a briefcase, picture this, in a suit. I'm a 13-year-old kid. I'm walking back with the watchtower, which is the religious material that we would have. Everybody in the world had a Jehovah's Witness come to their door before, so this is not new. You know, and they probably offering you a watchtower trying to give you a Bible study. So I have my Bible and I'd have my watchtower in the briefcase. So I would stop by the drug dealer, his house, on the way home. And that's where he would give me his package, which I was like a young lieutenant because then I had a couple of the other younger kids my age. So he would give me the whole bomb and then I would give them half and distribute it to them. Or they would get 60-40, with them getting 40, I would get 50-50 because I was the one that was able to distribute it to the other cats my age. And I had the cover of being able to get this package and walk home with them in my briefcase because then I didn't fit the profile or the description because I would have everything in that briefcase and I'll be able to make it to the house safely so the DTs, detectives in the neighborhood wouldn't jump out on me and it was like a safe passage from the Kingdom Hall to going home.
And if they stopped you, you'd say, you know what, if you have a few minutes, officer, can we discuss I'd like to talk to you about some of these, some of the Psalms.
There you go.
We can go over some of the,
that's right.
Some of the, and they'd be like, just, you can go.
Right, let's talk about the new system.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me offer you a watchtower. You know, would you like to have a Bible study?
All right, just go on, go on.
Get out of here. So I never got stopped. So my mother knew that me and my brother was involved in all type of different stuff. We was getting into fights all the time. We was always breaking the rules as kids, staying out longer than we were supposed to. We would get in trouble. But, you know, at some point it didn't matter. And why do I say that? Because the attraction of the kids and your peers in the neighborhood was greater than the punishment and the wrath of your parents. So, you know, as we get into this whole story, my parents basically got our older cousins because I had ran away with my friends at one point. And they basically, I don't want to say kidnapped, but they had our older cousins come to the house, keep us there, and like a thief in the night, they shipped us off to Georgia because they wanted, they figured, so they thought that would make a difference.
So they figured, pick them up, put them in Atlanta. You don't know anybody in Atlanta. It's what they think Atlanta was going to be a better environment.
That's what they thought. So they believed.
I mean, did they bring you to Buckhead?
They didn't bring me to Buckhead, not at all. At the time, we were still, 15 years old, but little do they know, back then, transplanted us from New York to Atlanta, it wasn't necessarily a better environment. It was just different. You got hustlers, and you got street environments, and you got low-income neighborhoods all over the United States. But, unbeknownst to them, they just thought a change of scenery, a change of environment would change the whole program. But all they did was have some kids from New York move down to Atlanta, down south. In our mind, we thinking it's a slower pace down there, so we just bought what we knew from New York, and we just brought it to Atlanta. And then, as a matter of fact, we was still in contact with the people that we knew in New York, so we was really set up a program where we was getting some things from New York, getting this ship down to Atlanta, and we were still doing our things. But I was able to get into an excellent college in Atlanta, one of the best. They call it the Harvard of the South, Emory University. Not because my grades were so great, not because I had an excellent SAT, but I was an expert in debate and in mock trial. That's where I excelled. And they wanted to have more minorities on the debate team, so it was just the right timing. They needed to have some black kids on the debate team because they had the largest debate team in the country at that time, and they had very, very little minority representation. So I was able to get into Emory University, and that's where I really blew up in the flower game. Crazy as it may be, because now I'm at school, and I'm at school with kids richer than anything I had ever been around. I mean,
well, they can afford it. They
could afford it, and they opened my eyes. We are all only creatures of exposure, right? How far you can go, or or what can happen to you, how your life turns out, or the limits on how far you can go or how far you can even dream is possible for most of us based on the exposure of being able to believe. That exposure is so important. So I had never been around money like that before, unless I was never around money like that before. The little bit of money that I had been around was through drug dealers. Like I had explained earlier, those were my influences. Drug dealers in the neighborhood that I seen that had more money than I had ever seen before. Cats that was making as much or more money in 1 week than my father made in a year. When I went to school, there was cats so rich. I remember there was one Korean cat. I ain't even gonna say his name. But his father used to own a Mercedes-Benz factory and an airport in Korea. He got caught cheating on a test at Oxford of Emory because he was cheating off of someone else's paper. They was letting him see it. He was so hungover from the day before that he accidentally wrote their name on his paper. And when he didn't get kicked out of school because anyone else would have been kicked out, he was drunk one day and he was smoking flower. And he basically admitted to us. He said, my father is so rich and gives them so much money that they can't do anything to me. That's what he said to us because his father would donate a lot of money to the school. So, they made a special circumstance and he was able to not get kicked out of school for cheating, which is, in those schools, if it was me, I would have been gone.
Yeah,
I'd have been gone without it, like that. The reason why I'm talking about that is because this guy, he smoked a lot of weed. And a lot of cats that had excessive amount of money smoked a lot of weed. So I was the cool black kid, just to speak it plain. And I would go to Atlanta and I had a Volkswagen Bug, at that time. And I would go to Atlanta and I'll come back and I would have the fire flower. Fire. Next level. This is back in 91 we talking about. And
they had the money to buy it.
They had the money to buy it.
Yeah.
So they started giving me their money. And they wanted me to go buy the flower for them back in Atlanta in the West End from the Jamaicans. So I would be able to come back with, $400. That was for starters. And I would be able to just buy a QP. And I would be able to come back and sell it to them for $800. This is or whatever the numbers was. But as far as I remember, that was it. And then he had a Mercedes-Benz. So I got tired of driving my car, so he would let me take his car and give me the money. This was just one of them. This is one of the stories, obviously. I got a million, but I'm just going to tell you this one to demonstrate the type of money that he had. He told me that his parents would put $10,000 in his account every semester just for him to spend. And he had a Benz. So I'd take his Benz. I'd be going all day. I'd be going all over the city. I'm in the Benz. I'm living. I got money. I'm making crazy money. I'm buying the flower. I'm going back. And that was really the introduction to me, really just expanding my mind on how much money I could make on the flower. Then I was supplying all of the fraternity brothers that was on the compound. So I went from getting QPs to pounds while I was in college because I was getting everybody else's money. I would take them. I could double up, and it was just crazy. It was just, it was the easiest money in the world. And I was partying so much, I didn't do too good in school at Emory, so that only lasted for 1 year, and I was out after that. I was supposed to be a lawyer.
That's where all your clients were from, though. You think you'd at least keep your grades up high enough to stay where your clients are.
I know. But I never ended up finishing school pre-prison because I was just out, and at this time, I'm just going up more and more and more. When I say going up, I'm going up on the money in my pockets. And I'm like, it's a struggle. It's a conflict in my mind because I want to go to school, but I'm just not disciplined enough. I'm smoking flower every day. I'm making money, and I'm thinking, going to school, why? It's a waste of time. I'm making too much money now. Why I got to go to school when I'm making bread now? Nowhere compared to what it ended up being, but still, I'm making bread. I'm 19, 20 years old. I'm making money. I'm able to get a car. I'm living a fast life, and I'm having a good time doing it.
Or does it catch up to you? Like, is it just you selling, or do you have people underneath you at this point? What does it catch up? Do you get arrested? Do you ever get? Because seldomly do people just get arrested one time.
Right. No. Well. Here's the thing. I always had this mindset coming from New York. A major influence back then was John Gotti. He was a mob boss, and he was all in the news. John Gotti. Everybody knows John Gotti that's back from that era. No matter where you're from, you probably know John Gotti. And Lil John used to always say to me, he called me like, yo, you're Lil John Gotti, you're Lil John Gotti. Because I always had in my mind that, I was a master entrepreneur, and I was trying to always bring the hustle game to a whole nother level. So I started with I met this one cat. His name was Kid. He was Jamaican. He was from Port Royal, Kingston 1. They call that home of the Pirates. That was my first major connect when it came to flour. He was connected to like serious Jamaicans, whether it was, Shower Posse or whatever it was, dudes from Tivoli Gardens, Jamaica, Kingston. I mean, some of the baddest Jamaicans on the planet at that time that's where he was getting his flour from. And that's where I was getting it from. So I'm buying more and more flour. This is at a point in time where now, whatever I'm buying, he's also giving me product on top of that. And so, yes, I got people underneath me because I'm getting more and more flour. So now I'm giving them. I'm really becoming like a wholesaler. I ain't getting no quarter pounds no more. I'm getting pounds. Mm-hmm. And based on that, I'm getting it at a way cheaper price than everybody else. Remember, you can't think like Atlanta today in 2025. This is Atlanta back in 93, 94, 95. This is the mid-90s. This is Freaknik. This is like we flour and thing back, back at that time this is like super illegal. I mean, they're looking at this like hard or like all type of other stuff. This is like, you can get arrested and get years for, a half a pound or a quarter pound, or, if they catch you with more than an ounce and it's in little bags, they hitting you with distribution. So I'm making money. My money's getting up more and more, and I got to connect. My connect is through my man, Kid Ali. So now I'm really starting to grow. So we in Southwest Atlanta, Swats. This is where we are. This is in between, off Camilton Road, in between Venetian and Lee Street. Venetian and Avon. So I got different houses over there. I got houses that we renting because I just know that neighborhood because I used to be over there in that neighborhood. I kind of grew up there, even though I was in Clayton County, which they call Clayco. I'm going there every day because I told you I was in the magnet program for law and government. My cousin lived over there, so in order to be able to go over there, we had to use his address. And my father worked at Fort McPherson, which was right up the block. So he would drop me off over there, and then I'd go to school there, use that address, come back. So I spent a lot of time in Atlanta, and that's how I knew the neighborhood. So when I'm at high school, I'm still familiar with this neighborhood. So I come over there, and I really set up shop. So I got multiple houses that we renting. And what we was doing is, one of the houses we lived in, another house we had, which was the weight spot, and another house that we had, which was the smaller things. And then we had another crib, which is what was like a safe house. So I'm getting all of this product and I'm giving it to different people. I mean, we got it set up based on things that I had learned when I was living in New York, and based on how the Jamaicans used to run spots. I had spots over in the West End. I had spots on Frank Street, one of the most, back then I had some of the premier spots in all of Atlanta. I'm bringing the orange. They getting so the Jamaicans, even though they were Jamaican, they're not really getting their flour from Jamaica. They're getting it from California. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting really, obviously, listen, I'm not the only one. Nothing is absolute, but I'm one of the first dudes that was really bringing high-end chronic for real to Atlanta. I'm bringing the orange. I'm bringing the purple. I'm bringing all that. I'm getting it from Long Beach. I'm getting it through them because, and I'm jumping around. But so he's giving me mad work. He's sending the money out however they send it. Western Union at the time, because you could send a lot of money through Western Union.
There's a reason you never wire cash to a Nigerian prince. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They've got over 1,000 attorneys, and they've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. That's not just luck, that's results. For example, in Florida, an insurance company offered someone $350,000. Morgan & Morgan got them $12 million. Another client in Pennsylvania was offered $500,000. Morgan & Morgan helped them walk away with $29 million. When you hire them, it's like showing up to a fight with a legal army behind you. And their fee? It's free unless they win. So if you're ever injured and it's not your fault, don't mess around. You can start your claim without even leaving the couch. You can go to forthepeople.com/Matthew Cox. That's forthepeople.com/Matthew Cox.
You didn't have to show any type of ID. He sent it to his girl. His girl would send the work back. They would send it with people that would just take it luggage on a plane. Mm-hmm. So as things got transpired and started progressing, me and my dude kid, we got closer and closer. So eventually, now he not sending it no more. Now we going out there together. You know, I'm still going through him, but he got all of the connects. We going out there, and then I'm recruiting the people to go out there that's gonna bring it back. So I would always use females. So we'd load them up with the suitcases, and then they would just jump on the plane. This is pre-Unabomber. This is when you could still get on the plane. I could use a female's ID to get on the plane. Now, I'm not personally bringing anything back myself. I never really tried to transport anything. I would just, like you said, I would organize everything, and we would pay people. Most of the time it was females, and if they got a clean record and, you know, they don't fit the description, we would just pay them. We, you know, package everything up, put it in their suitcase, load them up with like 50 bags per suitcase, and they bring it back 2 suitcases. And at the time, this was when, so we had two types of things we was getting in. The Jamaicans was getting in from Mexico, but they weren't getting it directly in themselves. The Jamaicans at that time, at least the ones that I knew, and come to find out, that's pretty much how it was, because the Jamaicans controlled the game for the most part with the blacks, as far as I know, with, you know, through my lens. Right. They was always getting it from the Migos, the Mexican dudes, because the Mexican dudes was trafficking it in from Mexico. So the Mexicans would give it to the Jamaicans a lot of time. So that was the brick flour that would be coming in, you know, and we was getting a lot of that. In addition to that, I was getting from the white boys, but not directly from the white boys. I was getting it from some dudes in Long Beach, but they was getting it from the white boys, because the white boys it just is what it is. All the way, like chronic and all of that was invented in like the growing process and all that. That was invented in like the Emerald Triangle, which is made up of 3 counties: Mendocino County, it's Trinity County, and it's Humboldt County. That's what makes up the Emerald Triangle. Right. Up in the mountains. They the ones that really started growing all of the real, what was called back then chronic. And then, you know, the blacks, American blacks or whatever, in my circles, they was the ones, they would get it from the white boys. They were the best growers. They got all the secrets. That ain't no secret. You know, I mean, everybody knows that. And they probably, you know, to this day, just, you know, I would guess they got the secrets. This is generational type stuff. So we was getting a lot of it on that level from them, and we was getting all of the brick flour and the bales from the Jamaicans, which would come from the Mexicans. Eventually, I got a direct Mexican plug, but that's later down the line. So I would set up traps all around the city. So I would have them in the West End. We had an infamous spot called Frank Street. Anybody that's around my age, if they was in Southwest Atlanta or anywhere near that, they knew Frank Street, because we was killing the game. You know, we was making a lot of money off of £1. You know, and we would, like, it was so good. So many people wanted it. We had ball players coming through. We had people in the industry coming through, and we had dope boys coming through, because they was the ones that could afford it. And we sold about a gram. We sold $30 a gram at $840 an ounce. If you do the math, that's $12,800 a pound.
How often are you selling that? How often are you making that?
We probably was doing a pound a day in grams. And if a dude wanted to buy an ounce, he had to get it all in grams, because that's how we sold it. We sold it.
That's how it's packaged.
That's how we was packaging it. And we was killing it.
So how are you getting it from California to Atlanta? Or did I miss that? I heard you say that you had females that were bringing cash, but how were you getting the bud there?
Yeah, I probably jumped around at that time.
Or did you? I was gonna say you might have mentioned it. I might have missed it.
I might have started it, but I didn't finish it. I did kind of say it. We load them up. They bring it in their suitcases. That's how they was doing it. We give it to them, the females. We could fit roughly 50 pounds in each suitcase.
Oh, so you were talking.
They vacuum seal it. They put it in the bag. They come through with the suitcases, 1 in each hand. So roughly anywhere between 80 and 100 pounds.
Did he say that? I don't feel like I heard suitcases, but I don't remember vacuum seal.
No, I didn't say the vacuum seal.
Okay, I don't remember.
Absolutely,
okay.
I didn't say that part.
Because but when I hear that, I can picture the vacuum seal.
Right.
You know, I can picture, because I always think when they vacuum seal stuff, because, you know, then Well, I always, that then they dunk it in one thing, then they dunk it in another thing. They'll dunk them trying to get rid of whatever's on there so the dogs don't get them. But
that's right. 100%. I didn't say that.
You know
but
what?
I mentioned the suitcases.
I guess I listen to this.
All right, let's go.
Real quick. I interviewed a guy in Ohio.
What part?
Dayton. And
I made a lot of money in Ohio, Cincinnati, and Columbus. Go ahead.
And he owns a. I'm gonna say this wrong. It's like a health food. It's not health food. It's health. It's when you mix stuff up in water and you drink it. Whatever. Like vitamins and stuff. Health. There's a fucking supplements.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyway, and so I did this interview with him. Great interview. I'm sure Colby's gonna put it together.
All right, dope. I'll look for it.
And but he gave me all these bags of supplements, but they're sealed up, like they're sealed and they're packaged nicely. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like marketing, like you know what they are. But I'm listening. He handed me a lot of them, bro. Like, oh yeah, this, and as soon as I'm grabbing it, I'm like, this is like a key. Like this feels like everything he gave me. I thought, and I looked at him and I go, bro, I'm gonna be okay getting through security with this, Right. And he's like, oh yeah, I've traveled all over the place. Listen, I got pulled over. Every place I went, it went through the machine. And it kicks it out, and then they get there and they look around. There's this here. I'm like, yeah, it's mine. And open it up, and the guy and they take it, and then they take some little looks like a baby about half the size of a baby wipe, and they wipe it down to see if it I don't know if they think it's explosive or
right.
But every place I went, they did that, and every time they did, it shot to the side. I thought, fuck, this fucking guy told me. He's, oh, no, you won't have any problems. I travel everywhere. I thought, as soon as he gave it to me, I thought, fuck, that looks like drugs.
Right.
I feel like this is drugs.
When
I
you
would
see it go over this way, your heart starts beating like,
I'm going to have a problem.
I think I didn't fuck that.
Yeah. Well, and I kept thinking I had heard somebody say, were they stick stuff? But they didn't, because whatever he wiped down was fine.
Okay, gotcha.
But so as soon as you say all of this, I'm thinking about I just don't know if any of this would work anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because they're catching. I did have a lot of. It looked like I was smuggling 3 or 4 keys, or at least half keys. I don't know really how.
But it was just something.
Key is it? Whatever. Yeah. Anyway, that's just what reminded. I don't know what he could cut that out. I don't know.
Right.
It just reminded me of that because I thought to myself, you're not getting through those. Anybody. I don't know how anybody's getting anything into a fucking airport anymore.
Right. But guess what?
They
From
are.
what I hear,
Some
people still doing it. I say, Jesus.
Never,
Sheesh.
bro. Never.
Who would take that chance?
Yeah.
But I guess people take all type of chances.
Yeah.
Once again, it's based on exposure.
I feel like it's all just drive. They're coming over the border now. Okay, so you're bringing it in. You guys, your suitcases. They're not driving it. Are they ever driving it?
Yeah. I mean, we got it. Yeah, we started driving. I mean, we did it every which way but loose. I mean, we got into So okay. So let me tell you what happened. So yes. So at one time, like I told you, at one point in time, you can get in the airport. You can go with no ID. It didn't even matter. The Unabomber happened. You remember that?
Yeah.
They started tightening it. Now you need ID. Whatever. So people like him and people like Timothy McVeigh, as terrorism started, we started getting instances of terrorism. They started tightening up security all over, and the airport was one of the places.
Yeah.
So they started tightening up security, and I don't know if the tightening of security had anything to do with what happened, but at some point in time, I had 7 girls out there at one time, and I think maybe we were just getting it in so much and so often that we kind of slipped, and so there was a simultaneous bust. All 7 girls got caught at the same time at LAX. They followed them from the hotel, busted them all at the same time, and all of that.
That's not a coincidence.
Yeah, no, they definitely followed them. And,
okay.
And yeah, we know that for a fact. They started following them from the hotel. They was on to the girls. I wasn't there. I didn't get caught up in it, but they were all my girls.
Right.
And so all 7 of them got caught. It was a simultaneous bust. That ended us doing it at the airport.
Okay. So what happened with those? What happened with them?
With the girls?
Yeah.
So for the most part, most of the girls got probation. One of them ended up doing 2 of them ended up doing sometime maybe 3 months because it was still LA. And LA, because they were caught in LA, 50 pounds or 75 pounds of flour is not the same as getting caught with 50 pounds or 75 pounds at other places in the country like Ohio or Atlanta.
Yeah.
So most of them got probation. One of them got 3 months. Another got 3 months. And then I never forget there was a Russian girl. Her name was Julie. She came to the United States. She was a University of Georgia student. She came to the United States basically whatever you call it. I forget the exact word for it. It was some type of asylum or whatever, running from Russia.
Oh, okay.
The judge basically said to her, when they found out and realized that if she got a conviction on her record, she would be deported back to Russia, and if she got deported back to Russia, she essentially would have been executed. So they would have killed her in Russia at that time. So
Wait, what year was this?
This was maybe mid-90s. So
Yeah, okay, so it is Russia by that point, I think.
yeah, it was Russia,
Yeah,
right,
it
or
just-
Moscow, wherever it was.
No, it was.
She
The
was
Soviet
Russian.
Union fell in like 89, so
That's
it would have
right.
been Russia now.
That's
but
right.
yeah.
That's right. You
They
remember
still
all
don't-
that.
they still don't-
USSR.
They would have frowned on that. Would they give what's her name? Would they give what's her name? The basketball player for a little bit of
That's right.
Brittany
could-
Griner.
A little bit of
Yeah.
oil.
What'd they give her?
Let me see.
Like 10 years or something? They
Yeah.
just trade her like what are they gonna give this chick for?
Well, the way that she left, from the way that it was being explained, they would have killed her because she left like she ran from Russia. She was a
okay.
Russian citizen and escaped Russia, her and her family. So at that point, if the United States would have sent her back, her goose would have been cooked. There would have been
so they're not
curtains
gonna
for
send her back.
So the judge didn't even say, he basically dismissed the charges on her for that reason. So that was a little interesting story.
She was sentenced to 9 years
There you go.
in Russia.
Wow. For like
A little bit, yeah.
an eye drop of it. So anyway, we tried different ways, man. Listen, I had other people that ended up, trying to transport flour for me, and they would do Greyhounds. I had my little cousin, as a matter of fact. I feel bad. I feel bad with that because he ended up getting murdered later. And sometimes some of the things that you do, he wasn't related directly to that, but obviously this on my conscience because I feel like this was my little cousin. He's supposed to be, following my lead. He looked up to me. He was selling weed for me. He was selling flour for me. Excuse that. And but he ended up getting murdered. But the short of the long is he ended up getting caught before. He ended up getting a probation. He didn't have to do time, but he was transporting on the bus. And he got caught in like El Paso, Texas, because it was near the border. So there was instances of where we was using the bus. But if you fast forward to where the real bread started being made is when I ended up meeting my own amigo. I got my own Mexican.
Sure.
And that's how I ended up really realizing that the Jamaicans that had a connection with an amigo, those were the ones that was really able to win. So once I was able to get with a Mexican guy, and he became my guy, and then that's when it took off to a whole new level. And then that's when we went from trying to get it in buses. And I didn't did the FedEx route, I did the UPS route. We didn't did the plane, we talked about that. We tried everything. But where the real magic happened was when I hit Amigo and when we had a tractor trailer. Then the loads was coming in.
So how does that even start?
With the Migos.
No, I know. But I mean, how does that? Does he say like, "I know a guy," or do you know a guy?
No. So listen. This is how it ended up happening. So the Jamaican guy that I was dealing with, good friend of mine, still a good friend to this day, but his connect was the Mexican. So the Mexican met us both. So he had both of our contacts. So he was sending us the work, but like I would give the money to my guy, my Jamaican partner, because the guy was his connect. But then I don't know what happened. I don't want to disparage my guy at all or whatever. But what it seemed like at the time is maybe because sometimes people will take money that they have and they figure, okay, I'm gonna flip it, double up, and then I'll give him his money back. Whatever was happening, I don't know. But it'd be like I'll be done. Instantly, I'm done, and I'm giving him the paper. And then after some time passed by, somehow or another, I ended up running into Frank. And he was like Francisco Arroyo.
Okay.
Yeah, so somewhere or another, I ended up running into him. And we ended up having a discussion. I don't remember the fine details, but I remember that he wanted to know, like, what's going on? What's taking so long? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean what's taking so long with the paper? Like, I'm done with it. I think he might have called me because he had my number either initially or got it somehow. And he was like, it's taking so long, what's happening? You guys, why is it taking so long? He says that he's waiting on the money from you. Waiting on the money. Whoa, hold on. Waiting on the money from me. Nah, he ain't waiting on the money from me. I turn mine in pronto. Like, my things move like lightning. Like, I don't play no games with people's money. Never did. Don't owe anybody. I make money. I want all of mine and none of yours. So anyway, that was the beginning of me not having to go through my guy to go to him. And then I was dealing directly with the Migos. So that's how they transported it there. They had drivers, and they had and they would load it up, and then we would just have
They
to meet.
loaded up, okay, in a semi as
53-footer tractor trailer.
Okay, and but like hiding it what in logs? Are they hiding? Are they?
Nah, what they would do is the driver would always get a load, whatever that load is. He'd have to get dry storage where it would be boxes. within those boxes, whatever they were, then the Migos would emulate those boxes identically.
Right.
So it would just look like a natural part of the load. What a lot of people think is, like, ain't no dogs. They're not, number one, a regular state trooper or cop, they can't even pull over. Well, a state trooper probably can. But a regular cop can't pull over no semi. You've got to be, I don't even know if a regular state trooper can, but I know a regular cop can. It got to be DOT, Department of Transportation. You got too many, it's a commercial vehicle. You got too many of them on the road for them to be pulling over H1. You messing with commerce now. You're not gonna mess with the flow of commerce. Even going through the weigh stations is really no big deal. It's all really come down to that paperwork. Your logbook. They know what time you left here because you can only drive for a certain number of hours before you got to stop driving. You got to be off. You're going to have a manifest, which is going to say what you're carrying. If all of your log and your paperwork looks straight, you straight. Now, a truck could carry up to 80,000 pounds of material on it. So even when people are thinking sometimes, if I got 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds, our average load was a ton and a half, 2 tons. We didn't have like 80,000 pounds of flour. Well, we could have a ton and a half, 2 tons. That's how we was moving. So, if you go from getting 100 pounds to a ton, you in a hole. That put me in a different tax bracket, except I wasn't paying taxes. Right. But if I was, it'd be a different type of bracket. So I became a drug dealer's drug dealer because all my friends that was dealing in other things, they was dealing in the heart or, that girl. I never really was dealing on that on a large scale, like I told you, but I had most of my friends were. So they would but I made as much money, if not more than them. So they probably be thinking like, how is this dude making this money? Why? Because I was moving a lot of weight of flour. Right. A lot of weight and flour fast.
So when the trucks get here,
right?
Here,
wherever it was, right?
Yeah, they get to Atlanta. I'm assuming that's where you were distributing. So you're getting them in Atlanta. They're unloading them, and what are you putting them in? Do you have stash houses?
Yeah, stash. Well, to begin with, I didn't have a stash house, but then but I quickly ended up getting stash houses. But I would just bring it to my crib. At the time, I got cribs or whatever.
A ton, that 2,200.
My whole garage, you couldn't even move in the garage. It's just boxes everywhere. It's crazy. And now at this time, remember, this is mostly the bales.
Yeah.
So we talking probably 50 in a box.
Uh-huh.
So we talking maybe 100 boxes.
Okay.
Or 200, whatever it was. I don't remember the exact math, but it was a lot. Maybe it was probably 80 that they could fit in a box. And we had a lot. There was boxes everywhere. But, so we would meet them somewhere at 2, 3 in the morning, me and my brother or me and someone highly trusted, and we would have a van. And then you got to get a van or a moving truck or something. You got to get the right type of thing because the van, if it don't have the correct shocks or it's not something that can really take a lot of weight, when you put that type of weight, and these are things that you learn as you go on, but it can mess you up because the van would come down, because of the weight in it. And if you don't have the right shocks or the right type of van or the right type of box truck or whatever, it could literally, it could mess you up. It could be a problem. You could hit a pothole or anything and then your van is inoperable and now you got a real problem on your hands. But luckily that never happened. So we'd meet them 3, 4, 5 in the morning and we'd unload and then we go and then we have it at my place. But like I said, I'm supplying dudes that probably some of them weren't making a lot of money, more money than me. I don't know, because some of these dudes, I might have been doing my ton and a half a ton, depending upon the time, but it was consistent every 3 to 4 weeks. I'm doing mine, but they doing birds. And they doing birds, frequent birds. I ain't gonna get into no name game and all of that type of stuff, but some of these dudes is major figures. Some of these dudes is legendary status. You didn't heard their names, and not you, because, I don't know if you listen to rap or not, but, this is people that, people used to rap about. I might have thrown their names in it, or, some of these dudes they was dealing with. Not me, but I might have met them. So they might come and grab 200-300 pounds from me like it wasn't nothing. Because dudes that deal in that other, dealing on that other street or in that other game, they always look at flour like that's like a small thing, like that's like a plate thing. Mm-hmm. So they might take whatever they take. It's just like something they're doing on the side for the other people that they know that might want flour. But their main thing was them birds. Right. And we talking dudes that's doing 50, 100, 150, 200 birds a week, a month, whatever it was, but they was making major paper. But I was the guy that dealt with the flour. So if they needed to grab 200, 300 pounds, whatever it was, they grab it from me. Because, like I said, I became a drug dealer's weed dealer, basically.
How long does this go on before does anybody get busted? Or are they getting busted every once in a while? Or
listen, the driver didn't get busted for some years. We making money hand over fist. Eventually, the driver did end up getting busted, and my sixth sense just told me, and he got busted, and he was really trying to set me up. But my sixth sense told me, and I ended up not going to meet with him, even though he was getting me to try and come meet with him, and I didn't. He got knocked off. But most of the time,
don't you kind of have to know right then as soon as they're like, yo, meet me, and you're like, I haven't met you in 2 years.
Yeah, he was delayed.
Yeah,
he was delayed. He was calling, and it was just real weird.
One of these guys that always will get like shit shipped through like FedEx, and then one day it disappears,
right.
And then 3 days later it shows up, and
right.
then suddenly the FedEx guy's like, hey, we've got your package here. Can you come pick it up? And then it's like, just put the officer on the phone.
Right.
I'm not coming.
Exactly. Yeah, tell him I'm not coming.
I can't tell you how many guys I've talked to in prison and here where they've that exactly, and then suddenly it showed up, and then they called me, and it's like,
yeah, stupid. You didn't know as long as you've been in the streets.
No. Oh, I've had guys that actually showed up and just sat in the parking lot, like waiting, and actually like called the FedEx, called them and said, hey man, you might as well just tell the cops to come on in. I mean, I'm not coming. And then they actually would call, and then the cops get out of the car and walk in and they'll go in to talk to him, and they're like, fuck. Like they just, they knew because it had disappeared. But I've also like Bozak. Bozak didn't. He got called.
Who was Bozak?
John Bozak's the guy. He was a credit card counterfeiter, and he said, and it was in Rock Hill in South Carolina. He's like, it had like one fucking UPS store, and he said, and I actually was waiting for a package. He was like, so when they called me and said, hey, we got a package here for you, I thought, okay. He's like, they didn't call because it disappeared or any of these because he'd had things like that happen. He said, I actually did have a package that was supposed to be coming. So when the guy called me, I was like, oh yeah, cool. Because I showed up as soon as he was walking in, I guess the detectives were sitting in their cars. He's walking in, agents. These two Secret Service agents are walking in right behind him.
Wow.
And one of them like closes the door and locks it and turns around and says, you're Mr. So-and-so? And he's like, he said, I know everything. I was just done. It was over.
He was like,
but yeah.
I know I done fucked up.
Anytime there's a delay and they call you and want to meet you, no, I'm all right.
Right.
Travis, my buddy, he called. We're depositing a check for like $100,000, and they called and said, "Hey, can you come in? We need to actually witness you endorsing the back of the check." And he tells me, he's like, "Yeah, I'm going in there I'm pulling in now. They got a witness." I'm like, "No. I've deposited lots of checks over $100,000. Nobody's ever needed to witness
what are you
me.
Talking
what are you
about?
talking about? They wait for it to clear. What are you talking about? Nah, it's cool. It's cool. It's not cool. Don't go in the bank."
That's how he got busted?
Yeah, walks in the bank, gets arrested.
Wow. Incredible.
It's fine.
You couldn't make this up.
It's fine. It's fine. Whatever.
But
then he spent 3 months working with a task force.
Oh my God.
It's
okay.
fine.
Yeah. Listen, to
It's
each his
fine.
own. Yeah.
It's
I
fine.
mean, listen, I try, and that's
I had
perfect
dinner with him
segue.
6 months ago.
What's that?
I had dinner with him 6 months ago. It's
right.
fine.
Yeah. I mean, people got to make their own decision on what they're going to do, and that's a perfect segue to what I'm about to get into how I ended up getting busted, and then ultimately going to trial, losing, receiving a 12.5-year sentence, and I ended up ultimately serving 6 years and 4 months and 2 days, but who's counting? But listen, people got to live with their own self, and every situation is different. Every cooperation situation is different. I didn't cooperate. I went to trial, but sometimes if you tell on someone, like in my situation, if I look back now and somebody asks me what I had tested, I don't really give a damn what somebody says. If those dudes I would have told on, because those dudes told on me. I stood up and I was 100% real, because the school that I came from, I just knew and I believed that if nobody talked, everybody walked. And that's honestly, that's why I appreciate and I respect these dudes like Thug. Like Thug, he just had a RICO case, and it's good to know that there's real cats out there that still stand up tall, because this dude beat a RICO case. And why? Because the dudes in his case was solid. And nobody didn't talk. Even the cats that they thought were going to talk got on the stand and then started saying, oh, I forgot. Yo, the only reason why I said this is because y'all forced me to say it. And the DAs and the prosecutors and everybody's in the courtroom flipping. They want to clear the courtroom. They want to have a conference in judges' chambers. But at the end of the day, this dude beat it because everybody in his crew stood up. But in my situation, they didn't stand up.
That's just almost never
It
happened.
almost never happened.
Right.
In my situation, how did it come to an end? Who got busted? Me. You asked me earlier if I got busted a bunch of times. No, not really. I had a couple of little small cases where I got busted, state level, but I was always able to beat it because I get the lawyers. Shout out to Renee Rockwell or whoever it was, I was able to beat it because it would always be some nonsense that they was trying to get me on, and I had enough money to get the right lawyer to just walk out of the courtroom. I felt like I was John Gotti. I made reference to that earlier because I beat these cases, whatever. Or my crew would like when we all got busted in a house, one of them houses that I talked about that we had, they would just say, nah, that was ours. And then I would be able to beat it because they already knew where their toast was buttered. So they don't want, you know what I mean, the guy to go down that's making everybody eat or helping everybody eat. Everybody did their part. But it just so happened that I was a supplier. So I'm in West Virginia now. And I'm dealing, I don't know if we can say this, but I think we can because, I'm naming names today. I cannot talk about rats. Can I name a rat?
Yeah,
so listen, I'm in Charleston, West Virginia. These are two of the biggest rats in Charleston, West Virginia history. So it don't even matter. But I know one thing for sure and two things for certain. Our president, President Trump, who I respect, does not like rats. He talks about rats all the time. And Fred Tyson and Kevin Lee, two of the biggest rats in West Virginia history. They've been ratting since the early 90s. They the reason why I went to prison. Now, when I say the reason why I went to prison, obviously they didn't twist my arm. I knew what I was doing. Mm. If flour wasn't illegal, I wouldn't have been making the money I made, and I made a lot of it. So I'm not mad at the illicit flour game because I was a part of it for many years, and I almost feel justified. Matter of fact, scratch the almost. I feel justified. Why? Because it's legal in half the states. So the whole idea of locking people up for decades is nonsense anyway. But anyway, so I'm in West Virginia. I'm not part of no investigation. I'm like the original ghost. I move behind the scenes. I was never flashy because I always had a saying, fuck the flash. I just want the cash. And that's how I moved. So I'm going to West Virginia, but I did get sloppy. And I got sloppy because I'm smoking on my way up there. I'm feeling good. I had been doing it for so long, it just became almost like second nature. So I got my phones ain't in my name. And these cats, the rats, Fred Tyson, this is the dude that I was supplying. I'm bringing this dude more flour than he can handle. I'm bringing it to him. I'm solid. This dude, and he was in the real estate at the time too. This dude was making millions in real estate, plus he was doing other things. Unbeknownst to me, this dude is also playing on that other street that I didn't deal with. I used to make it a habit to try, and most of the part, if I'm bringing you something, I want to know that you only dealing in flour. But this dude is dealing in other things, so he was under an investigation that I had no idea about. Mm-hmm. They had no idea about me. I never talked on the phone. And on this one occasion, and this is me, this is all me, I did this to myself. I was the fool that made a mistake. So I got my girl up there. She going up there, she reached before me. I'm in the car with my partner. He, as a matter of fact, he here. He right now, he driving. I'm in the passenger side. He's over there. Shout out to TK, he my partner. We still, that's my man, 20 grand. So, and it's just so ironic that we here talking about this because when I caught this indictment, which really started back in 2004, we driving in the car, we in a Nissan Maxima, and my girl get up there and she's like, I talked to my man called, he gonna meet her at the hotel. He says, your girl is here, what you want me to do? I said, yo, it's in the trunk just like last time, just so she gonna pop the trunk, just grab it out the trunk. That's what I said. That was enough to really get me. In conjunction with this rat cooperating, this was really what tied me in to the conspiracy. So now, even though they don't have no idea who I am, they're investigating this dude because of the other lane that he's playing in that I don't know. Now this dude is already a known rat in West Virginia, but they really want to build a case on him because he got stores, he got houses, he got, $500,000 house out there. This dude is living, he's doing it big, he's doing the flipping houses game out in West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia. For y'all that don't know about Charleston, West Virginia, it's 2.7% black people. This is a black dude I'm dealing with. We had this talk many times before. This sucker done told me before, listen, if anything ever happened, you just ain't never gonna hear from me. I'm gonna go away. You ain't gonna hear from me, then you see me a couple years later. Lie he told. So what happened is, I said what I said. but his phone is tapped. My phone that I'm talking on is not in my name. So I think I'm safe. However, when I go up there, now they know, wait a minute, who in the world is this? Who's coming up there? What they talking about? So they scrambling to go see where he's at because they got pole cameras on the store. They got people following him. This investigation was going on for 2 years. And they was about to end the investigation after they kept extending and extending and extending it. Then they want to know, who's this dude that's on the phone talking about, grab it out the trunk. Lo and behold, they think I'm the dude that's bringing them other things, them birds. That's really what they want because that's what he's under investigation for. They don't want no flour.
Right.
They want a big case, a real big case. So they start following and all this nonsense.
They start following you. After that,
They following
start
him.
following
They
you.
following him. They trying to get to him, right? They follow me once I get up there. I don't even know. But at this point in time, they run out and they get with lightning speed, they're able to go and get a warrant on my phone. Because my phone was talking to his phone, which they already had surveillance on his phone. They got a wiretap on his phone. But now they got the PIN register, which is the number to the phone, even though the phone is not in my name. They know that whoever that voice is on that phone is talking to him and told him it's in the trunk, like last time. So they're already following him. I don't know how they missed him at the, they say they're on you all the time, but they not. Somehow they missed him going up there and grabbing it out the trunk. But they scrambling to find out who is this that's coming up. So they get a surveillance now on my phone. So I get up to West Virginia. I don't even know. They following me and my man around in the car. And they following him in the car. He's on the surveillance. So now I'm in his investigation. So while I'm up there, this dude ends up calling me and telling me, like, yo, they're about to get me. They're about to grab me. You gotta get rid of everything. So before they got him, and I know it's a little foggy, but so he had a store. It was a record store, and we're gonna come back to that store because it's relevant to the story. And he had an apartment on top of the store. But behind the building, he owned the building. Remember, I told you he was in real estate. He owned the same building where he rented the store. We had a record store and hair products and incense and all type of stuff he used to sell in that store. Behind it, there's a garage. And that's where they stored everything. So he could leave out the back. So he rushes in. He knows they coming to get him. He tells his man, meet me at the store. He comes behind the back, and the dude is able to get everything out of the back, even though they got a surveillance camera on the back, but they're not there. They looking for him, and they're not in the back of the store. So when they got everything out, he drives this way, his man drives that way. When he drives this way, his man drives that way and gets away. He drives this way, and they grab him. That was the beginning of the indictment. Now they got him. Man gets away with the flower, whatever he did with the flower. They never found the flower. Now we come up there. He already pushed me onto it. So when we on the line, remember they got his phone, they got my phone. When he tells me, I tell him, I say, yo, we got to get rid of these phones. We got to smash these phones because, they on to us. I know they on to us, and I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. They grab him, I already know they got him. I have a key to his apartment, which is on top of the building. I go to the building, and I'm thinking, well, they got rid of everything. I'm on top of the building. We in the building. I'm with my man. I think we was up there with the female that had bought everything up there. We up there trying to put together a plan. Like, we kind of nervous, but we kind of feeling kind of good because we knew we got rid of the flower. At least we knew the flower was not there.
Right. If you get caught, you're not caught with anything.
We're not caught with anything. But later, I come to find out, like my uncle told me, it doesn't even matter. As a matter of fact, you'd probably rather get caught with the flower. Because like my uncle told me before, he said, son, he said, listen, he said, these feds and a conspiracy, you don't want to be in a conspiracy. I know I'm jumping around, but this is after I get indicted. He said, it's something that they do. He said, they make that shit up as they go along. He said, because if they don't have it, they can just make it up. If they have it, at least you tied to the amount that they have. So they never had it, but I don't really know nothing about this. You're in the streets, you really don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So you think you know a lot.
Yeah.
But until you get a federal indictment,
or you're used to the state, which
you're also used to the state.
Plays fair in comparison.
And you're used to being able to beat it, get some lawyers. Mm-hmm. They don't catch you. Yeah, so I'm good. I'm remember in my head, I'm young John Gotti. I'm not even really worried. I'm just like, they got him, but I'm not really realizing the extent of it. Next thing we in the apartment, they what did they do? They come. My man tells me, yo, the 5 on the way to the house or something. So they banging on the door, but there's no peephole. They banging on the door. So I'm like, yo, who is it? They say the scariest letters I ever heard in my life. They said it's the DEA. When you hear them alphabet letters, you already know in your mind, because I never dealt with a federal charge. I never dealt with the DEA. I just used to hear about it. You hear about the FBI. You hear about the DEA, but it's a mystic like thing in your mind. You don't really know what it is, but a fear gripped my body. like nothing I had never felt before when you just dealing with like local cops. So I'm like, I'm not opening the door. You got a warrant. You got to open. I'm not opening the door. You got a warrant. They like, open the door. It's the DEA. And then somebody says, the FBI also. So they say, look out your. So I call them. I'm on the phone with 911. They say, look out your door. Look out your window, sir. It's 5-0, flooded on the whole block. No, you know what? I'm gonna reverse that. He had got picked up earlier, and I knew he got picked up. It's you know, when things. This is back in 2004, so the story was a little foggy. The flower was still downstairs. I called from in the apartment while they banging on the door, and he gets his man. I call somebody. I get his other man, Kevin Lee or whatever, before he got picked up. Fred was already picked up. His man gets his other dude to come and get the flower out while we there, because they in the front, worried about me. Man leaves out the door. They don't catch his man, so he gets away with the flower. I'm in there saying I'm not gonna open the door. So I call 911. I'm like, yo, I'm not opening the door. They're like, open the door. They banging on the door. Eventually I open the door. In retrospect, I really wish I didn't, but it probably wouldn't have made a difference because they would have got a warrant. I ended up opening the door.
And kicked the door in.
Yeah, they would have kicked it in. They grab us. They got us. They take us to the precinct. Me, my man, and the girl that boarded up there. They hold us for a couple hours. They asking us all type of stuff. I'm like, listen, you wasting your time. And I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not talking to anyone. I need my lawyer. They end up letting me and my man go, but they keep the girl. So I'm like,
why do they keep it? What?
Why? Because she was the girl that had the stuff in the trunk that they got the stuff out of. I know later on why they kept her, because their idea was to indict her and
Get
they
her
could
to flip on
get
you.
her to flip, get him to flip.
And they have
And
something
now they
on
got
her.
something. No, they don't.
Right.
No, they
Wait.
don't have nothing. But they
I
what
thought
they
you said
have.
she had the car that they.
But they never recovered it, because he ended up putting it in the store, in the bottom, and his man ended up getting what she brought up there out.
Okay.
At the time, maybe they don't know if they're gonna recover the flower or not. But they grabbed her under the assumption probably that, number one, they got me on the phone saying, my girl is up there, grab it, it's in the trunk, get it out the trunk. Same way, just like last time.
So she's the weakest. They think she's the weakest link.
That's what they probably thinking. And they got him. They know he the weakest link. I don't know this, but come to find out, this joker had already testified against his best friend from first grade in the early 90s. All these years I'm dealing with this joker, I don't have no idea that this dude is a king rat. I don't have no idea. He put his best friend in prison for life back in the early 90s, long before I knew him. I didn't know the joker until the year 2000, and I dealt with him between 2000 and 2004. So I don't know nothing about him from the early 90s. I found all that out once I lost the trial. But anyway, so they knew when they catch him, because they had already been investigating him. They said, we already know what this joker do. This joker he probably started telling before they got the cuffs fully on him. But I don't know none of this. So I'm just thinking, like
I'm so glad you've dealt with your anger over this whole situation.
yeah, exactly. Yo, I ain't even mad at him no more.
No,
But
I can tell. It does. I can tell.
At
It
one
doesn't
point I
upset you
wanted
at
to
all.
kill him. But I got over that. This was just while I was in prison. I'm not even that type of person, but when somebody put you in a circumstance like that, you're taken away from their family, a lot of bad things happen, one way or another. Your family got to struggle. So this is the type of mind frame that you have. Obviously, I got over that when I was in prison because I came to understand, and I ain't going to go through this diatribe. I'll get back on course. But one of the things that I was able to learn is that when you hold so much anger inside of you and you want to do something, it was really killing me. Mm-hmm. This joker's at home on the couch. He ain't think about me.
Was this like drinking poison, hoping it kills the other person?
That's right. That's what I was doing.
I always love that saying.
Right. So even though I outed him, because I don't know what if he's, who knows, he might be doing something. I just want people to know you don't want to deal with somebody that you got people out there that might cooperate because they're under so much extreme pressure. They can't take it. They want to get back to their family. I get that. But then you got people out there that have done it before. They've been through it. They get back on the street.
That's their MO.
And deal all over again, knowing that they have this as a get out of jail free card.
What did I say the other day? Do you remember the story I told? I said about the guy I met in prison that it was this black guy I had talked to. Super interesting guy. In the worst possible way. Because he was dealing in everything from guns, silencers, powder, bud, everything across the board.
Right.
Because he worked full time with I want to say it was a DEA or FBI agent.
Wow.
Like the guy literally, he would call him up and the guy was putting money on his books.
Right.
He'd go in for 6 months, 8 months, get back out. These are all charges that should have been 10 years. He's
Right.
doing 6 months.
Right.
That should have been, but he worked with this guy. So he's like, I work with him until I get somebody in a position. I make as much money as I can. Think about it. He goes, if I get busted at any point,
That's crazy.
I just get to say, bro, I was setting this dude up for you.
Right.
He's like, and I really do. But I have to do so many deals before the guy drops his guard. And then I go to my guy and I say, listen, bro, I got this fucking dude. Here's what's going on. Boom, boom, boom. He goes, wire me up. He don't check. He don't nothing. I'm ready to go. He's going to sell me 2 M16s or whatever, or 6 silencers or whatever. He's bringing the money. And the guy's like, fuck yeah. He's like, great. Boom. Wires him up. Bam. That dude,
got him.
He's done. He get 20 years.
Right.
And then this guy either gets no time,
Right.
or if in the course of something he gets busted for some reason, then they'll arrest him, hold him for 6 months in the detention while he's testifying, or maybe they'll let him go.
Right.
And this guy goes to bat, let him go. He's working with us, judge, that sort of thing. So he said, yeah, every once in a while I get fucked up on something. He can't really help me. He's like, right now I'm doing this 12 months. He's like, but I want to do 8.
Wow.
I mean, and the guy's putting money on his books. He's
Right.
like, and by the way, the FBI or DEA agent, I forget I want to say FBI because it was all kinds of stuff. He said, oh, he loves me. He just loves me. We're like best friends. Of course, he doesn't really love him.
Right.
Right. But you have to. But these guys, they'll maintain that relationship with you to make you feel like, hey, we're buddies.
100%.
And he's like, and he knew it too. He's like, I mean, I don't think I'm not going to fucking Thanksgiving dinner with this guy.
Right.
He said, but he genuinely is worried about me and cares about me and takes care of me when I'm in here. He said, because I'm making this motherfucker's career. He said, I'm able to do whatever I want. And it was just, this guy was fascinating.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't deal with him,
Right.
but his perspective on everything was like, and he knew from a young age, because I think basically the first couple times he got busted, everybody fucking told on him.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, I was done.
Okay.
I was done. He's like, I just started cutting everybody's fucking throat after that.
Right.
And he was something else, bro. He was something else.
Yeah.
But anyway, so.
No, it's crazy, but I'm very familiar with what you're talking about just based on, because I know I've been in the system. So I met dudes like that. They even have dudes, like it's a contract. This dude is what you call a lifer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got dudes out there that have they have a deal, contract set up where if they bust people and stuff gets seized or there's money, they can negotiate a portion of the money that is seized.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable stuff. This is the lowest form of human. This is vermin. This is the lowest form of individual because you're ruining lives. And so, me, like I told you, Matt, this is my first time. I never told this story. It's the first interview I ever did. I always believed in, I was even resistant to social media. Of course, now I have to get into it because, of the podcast and stuff like that. But I was just always resistant to showing my face. Like I told you, I didn't like the flash. I just like to move behind the scenes. And so, when I start reliving this story, it comes out of me because this dude, I took him as a genuine friend. His wife knew my wife. I knew his children. He knew my children. My wife at the time begged me and told me, please, you better tell him everything you know. But where I'm from and how I grew up, it was damn near like the mob. I just didn't believe in it. That's why I say I got respect for Young Thug and how his crew stood up. Because you don't see a lot of people, they not cut like that. They don't really do it like that no more. Now, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But, these dudes that run around with their chest poked out like they not going to tell, and as soon as they get handcuffs slapped on them, they tell before they can even act. They volunteer the information. That is the type of thing that I don't like. So it cuts into my ass because of the fact, like I told you, I love this dude, my loyalty is like when I'm with you, I'm with you. Like I would have been willing to do however much time I had to do because I could not conceive of telling on my friend because it was a genuine love. And he told on me so fast, it blew my mind. So, I really do forgive you. And I had to get over it. But I had to get it out. Because at the same time, while I might forgive you and you don't bother me no more, because I grew from that experience. It was a terrible experience, but I believe you can get good things out of bad experiences because I made up my mind when I went to prison that I was either going to be bitter or better. And I came out a lot better for it. But I had to go through the fire and the tribulation in order to get there. And half of that time was suffering on my mind, thinking about what I wanted to do with that dude. But I never tried to do anything when I got out because I got over it long before I got out of prison. And in my bid became a lot easier because once I stopped blaming him and being so mad at him, then I was able to just do my time and I was able to thrive in a different way. So yeah, cheers to you, my friend. But I still couldn't let you just walk around out there because I needed to be. And then I was scared to like say something negative about him because if you threaten or say something to a informant, you can get 10 years just for threatening him. So now it's so many years later, at least I can just get out and let anyone else know, Joker, if you back doing something on the street, you shouldn't be doing it because you know you can't take the time. So don't deal with these dudes if you're dealing with them. And probably if they got little young sons or whatever out there on the streets, don't deal with them neither. Because they might be junior rats, you know? A rat might get a rat.
So the girl, they grab her.
Okay.
Does she stay strong? Or does she say, oh, hell no?
Rock solid.
Okay.
Yo, they offer her, this is my co-defendant. They offered her where she didn't have to do no time. All
Right.
she had to do was give them me.
Right.
She told me later on, I come to find out. She said, yo, E, she said, I contemplated committing suicide rather than telling on you. We both went to trial, co-defendants. Trial at the same time. We both blew trial and lost. She ended up getting out in 2 years. She ended up winning her appeal as a minor participant, minor role, and I ended up getting out on the 2255 ineffective assistance to counsel. That's a whole nother story. I'm one of the best that ever did it.
Well, so they released you. How long before they came and picked you up again?
Oh, okay. They released. It was 6 months.
So did she sit there for 6 months?
She ended up getting out on bond.
Okay.
But when she got on a bond, she came back to Georgia, and she told me, she was like, yo, they coming to get you. And then I went through that whole nother period of being like,
Depression, just freaked out.
fear,
Waiting.
depression, like you don't even know what to do. When you first hear it, you don't even know what direction to go in. And so she tells me like, yo, they said it in open court. You know, she was in court and they basically was asking questions like, who's this guy in Atlanta? And they arguing the prosecutor, the AUSA, assistant United States attorney. They arguing like, you know, we gotta get this. We're gonna set up a warrant. We're gonna go get this guy in Atlanta. Now, back up a little bit. When they released me in West Virginia, when I went with my man, they let us out. We walking around. We gotta go back. We gotta get the car. We don't know what the hell is going on. So we walking around in Charleston, West Virginia, and we just like kind of like in a daze. They pull up on us, the FBI, at one point. We scared at one point. They tried to set us up right in West Virginia because we smoked flower. So they had some chick as we walking around. I think we was going to the mall, going to get something to eat, whatever we was doing. I don't remember the particulars. He's here. I could ask him. He probably remember it better than me because I was in the daze. So some chick pulls up on us and tries to buy. I think they might have tried to offer us flour or tried to buy flour from us. One way or another, we knew it was one of their people trying to get us, like one of their informants, trying to get us. So we didn't go for that now. Entrapment. We didn't go for none of that foolishness. But they pull up on us when we were about to leave, and I never forget it because it was the FBI, and he said, listen, he said we have a very aggressive United States attorney here in West Virginia. And so I'm gonna tell you how it works. Remember, I've never been in a federal case, never had federal involvement, didn't have an indictment. I don't really know how it works. You just kind of hear all these stories. But the feds, you kind of think like they're omnipresent. You think they're everywhere. They see everything. You think they got bugs everywhere. Nah, that's not it. They get most of the information by people giving them the information. You know, informants, i.e. rats. So he tells me straight up, he said, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. What typically happens here. He said, we have a very aggressive United States attorney. And there's only a limited number of seats on the bus. He said, there's a bus. And he said, when those seats fill up, he said, they fill up very fast. And if you don't get on one of the seats on the bus, you're not gonna be on the bus. And he said, we're probably gonna come in some amount of time because Fred Tyson, your friend, and Kevin Lee, he said they're probably gonna cooperate and they're gonna testify against you. And he said, when that happens, he said, the United States attorney is gonna be able to get a warrant on you. And he said, if we get a warrant, we're gonna come to Atlanta and come get you. And I said, sir, please don't come to Atlanta. And that was it. And then we left. 6 months later, you already know. They came to Atlanta.
Right.
First my cousin's an attorney. So he called. So it was like basically 6 months later when my co-defendant, Brandy Hambrick, she told me, she said, this was when I told you, like she was at a hearing or whatever, and she said, yo, they coming to get you. So that's when I had my cousin call, basically say, he got a different last name than me. So they didn't know he was my cousin. He called just to find out if there was a warrant out for my arrest. So he was able to call as an attorney, and they basically, you know, like attorney to attorney, they gave him, I forget what you call it, where they put you in a national database or whatever. My cousin had searched it or whatever. What?
Pacer?
It might have been Pacer, but they put you on like a national registry to see if there was one. But they basically say, yeah, we're going to come get him, and we'll give him a chance to turn himself in if you want to do that. And so I knew that they was coming to get me, and then I ran. I ran to Phoenix, Arizona, because I had a dude out there, and I'm still out there handling my business. You know, I own a restaurant now at this period of time in Atlanta, Icon Bar and Bistro, downtown Atlanta. So I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm trying to still do my thing and make money. I'm scared as hell. I don't know what to expect because I know they're coming to get me at some point in time. So after a few weeks, I just say, you know what? I can't run. I got a family. I got kids. I got a restaurant. I got all this. So I go back to Atlanta, and I'm like, yo, whatever happens is going to happen. And then I was outside the restaurant one day before I went in, and that's when it happened. You know, it was like it was all in slow motion. You know, I pull up in a minivan. I had drove all the way from Arizona. I'm in a minivan. I pull up. I'm on the side of the restaurant on Poplar Street, and I was on Fairley Street because my restaurant was at the intersection of Fairley and Poplar Street. Then me and my wife at the time, we had an apartment right next door because it was easy to get to the restaurant, and it was a one-way street. So I pull and I park, and right before I'm ready to get out of the minivan, I see a car. It's like it was in slow motion, but it was in fast motion. You know what I'm saying? And he's coming towards me like he's gonna crash in front of me because he's coming down a one-way street. And as I look up and I'm trying to process what's going on, the lights come on. You know how you see the lights because there's an unmarked car, but you see the lights. You know, they put on the lights. Mm-hmm. The car's turned off now at this point, and he's coming. My car's turned off because I'm about to get out. He's coming this way. And as I'm trying to process what's happening, as he's speeding towards me and I see the lights, cars come up behind me. And I look in the rear view and I see him. And within a matter of seconds, they out of the car with the guns drawn. And they saying, you know, they got the badges pulled, they out, and they saying, get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground, motherfucker, and don't move. And I'm laying on the ground face down, and they say, is your name Eric Girault? And they showed me a picture. And I was Eric Girault. All right. It was me. So they got me, they got me up. They read me my rights. They said, we got a warrant for your arrest out of the Southern District of West Virginia. And they put me in. I said, can you let my wife know upstairs? But at that point in time, she had seen it. She came downstairs. You could just kind of see, like, she's kind of in disbelief, the tears in her eyes, and they come and they got me, bro. You know the feeling. I don't know how they got you when they got you.
It's the same thing.
But yeah, they put you in the cuffs. They put you, you know, it's different than a regular arrest. You know, they get you at the ankles, they get you at the wrists, they put the thing about you, they transport you, they take you to a different place. I've been arrested before, but it's a different type of feeling. You go into a place where I had never been brought. It was like a garage door opens up and they bring, I think it was in like the bottom of the courthouse, wherever it was, they take you on a different floor when they bring you to the actual jail because
where was this in?
This is in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Remember, they come, this is the marshals, federal task force, as a matter of fact, that came to get me. Right, so they take you into that thing, it opens up. You know, by the time you make it to the detention center, first they take you there, and then they take you to the detention. Well, they take you there so that you can go to court. That's where I was at first. They took me there to the Richard B. Russell building. So this big, giant, like almost like garage opens up. I had never been in there before. And they take you in there, and at that point, you know, it's the only thing I can relate it to is what a rat, an actual rat. No, this is a real rat, not a human rat. Because I used to own a boa constrictor. I'm an animal lover. Okay. You know, I'm a man of many different hobbies. And we used to have this big giant tank that we used to put rats and mice in. Yeah. And you put it in there and we watch it, you know, when we was younger. This was one of my things that we did. But every now and then you'd put it in there and the boa constrictor was not super hungry. But the rat knew that this snake,
he knew it was coming.
He knew it was coming. And we'd look at him, we'd be laughing. You see the rat's heart pulsating. That's how you kind of feel when you're in there, because you caged and you chained, and you just really don't know what to expect. But at all of the arrests I had been in, I knew at this moment in time or I felt substantially that there was a good chance whenever it happened, I'm thinking, am I going to get out on bond? I had always been able to get out on bond, but I'm thinking, my life is going to change somehow, and shit is real. Because I didn't just fucked up and caught a federal indictment.
So they bring you upstairs, keep you in the marshal's holdover. They try and talk to you before they bring you into court?
Yes.
Do they bring you to the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's floor, or they bring you to the U.S. Marshal's floor and just keep you there?
They kept me downstairs, in the marshal's floor.
Yeah.
And it didn't last very long. Because I just told them, listen, this is, y'all got the wrong one.
Right.
I gotta get an attorney. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, as soon as you say attorney, they're like, oh, see ya.
It was ended. And I had to stay, as a matter of fact, a few days. And I got out. This was the longest I had ever been locked up.
You got bond?
I got bond because I had a clean record. I never had a conviction. Renee Rockwell was the one that was able to get me bond. Shout out to Renee Rockwell. You know I love you, Renee. She's been my attorney since a long time ago. And she got me off on a bunch of state cases. So she was able to do my bond hearing and get me out. But then she was also letting me know, like, I haven't really done a lot of federal cases. Like, these little cases you've been getting, this is a whole different ballgame. I was able to get out, like 4 or 5 days later because so it just so happened that my sister was getting married. We have a huge family. We had an enormous amount of people in my family that came to town, and everybody showed up in that courtroom for the bond hearing. And as a matter of fact, I got bond turned down, the immediate bond hearing, but then they said another one, which was like 4 or 5 days later. And I had so many members and family members packed in that courtroom. And so I was able to get a bond. The judge said that, it was such an enormous showing of support that he did not think I was a flight risk. Another reason is I had no previous record. There was no violence or hint of violence. I'm not a violent guy. And I didn't have violence. I always saw that as a businessman. I specialize in making money. So there was never any violence in my case. There was no violence in my jacket. There was no gun. There was nothing like that. That had a lot to do with it. And I was a business owner. Remember, I owned property and I owned a restaurant. So that helped me get bond. And as a matter of fact, I was out on bond for 18 months.
Strong ties to the community.
Strong community ties. You already know it. How do you know all of this?
I didn't get bond.
Yeah, but you know a lot about this federal stuff.
So you got out. Were you on an ankle monitor?
No.
Or you just got out? Okay.
I just got out.
How long did she I forget her name, but she didn't represent you because she said, look, I'm not the person for this.
I had to get a trial attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. Worst decision I ever made in my life.
What? Going
the
to trial?
attorney that I got.
Oh, okay.
Both. The attorney that I got and going to trial.
And so what did that cost?
$40,000.
$40,000.
I paid for my trial attorney, which
to go to trial?
To go to trial.
Dude, that was a bad decision. Like, I mean, that go to trial, that's $100,000 in the federals. Like,
this is in 2005, but that
sounds like a money grab.
I should have paid $100,000, and I should have had Steven Stadow, who I had a relationship with, who's the best attorney. And I don't do anything anymore, but if I ever did, or if I knew somebody that got into trouble in the federal system, I would recommend Steven Stadow. Shout out to you because he is the best. I have his phone number. I could call him. I appreciate him. He always picks up when I call because I've recommended other people to him. But he's the best, and I should have had him. And he would have charged $100,000.
I paid $75,000 to plead guilty.
Wow.
In 2002. This is the first case I had.
Okay.
To plead guilty. Like, I know I'm guilty. I know I'm pleading guilty. $75,000.
Right.
I'm pleading guilty.
Right.
Like 75.
Well, like I told you.
Ridiculous.
I had a guy. It was one of the worst decisions. This guy was a joker also. I really should have been able to win on him for malpractice because he was horrible. His name was
being a lawyer really is. It's just such a fucking. It's such a money machine. Because these guys are so desperate. You know what I mean? Like it's such an easy way to make. If you can get your law degree, which I don't think is that hard. These fucking guys, they just make so much money. And they don't do anything but just negotiate.
This guy was horrible.
But I was gonna say, but I'll bet you he lives in $1 million house,
multi-million-dollar house.
And
he didn't have hardly any experience in federal trials. So I got duped and my mother-in-law worked for him, so she doesn't know. She thought he was good because he beat a bunch of murder cases. Murder cases are the easiest cases to beat, and he beat them all in the state level in California. Mm-hmm. I got a saying about lawyers. I don't know how they sleep with themselves, but I know how. They lie on the left They lie on the right.
I mean, they have $2,000, mattresses. I mean, they sleep like babies. What are you talking about?
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners will get 10% off for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use code Cox at the checkout. That's ghostbed.com/Cox and use code Cox for 10% off site-wide.
It's been $2,000-$3,000 on a mattress.
And
You're
they
gonna sleep
lying on
great.
the left and they lying on the right. They lying all the time. So, anyway, so I hired this guy and he was terrible. And I blew trial. And then they roasted me and they roasted him.
Well, what happened at trial? How was trial? How many days?
5 days.
5 days?
5 days. It was
5 days. They got no dope on you.
No.
They didn't catch you with any dope.
No.
How many people?
They never found any dope in the whole conspiracy. The only thing that they recovered was almost enough flour to make one flour joint.
So how many people testified?
Well, testified against me 5. How many people testified? 7, because me and my co-defendant testified on our own behalf. Major mistake.
Why do you say that was a mistake?
Well, because the judge ended up increasing the sentence by 30 months because he enhanced me for obstruction of justice because as he said, I believe in the system.
You got to stand and lied.
He said, and the system is based on witnesses telling the truth. And he said, and I believe that you lied under oath. And he enhanced me, obstruction of justice. So I went from level 28 all the way up to level 34. So I know I went from level 26, which was 63 to 78 months, and I ended up at level 34, which was 151 to 188 months, which the low end was 12 years, 7 months. That's what I ended up getting. But we had a ridiculous story. So my ridiculous story is really what ended up getting me out of prison. Because, so during that time, remember I said we come back to this joker, Fred Tyson had a record store, but in that record store, he also sold bootleg CDs. So since they never was able to recover any of the flour, but they did have a pole camera on the back of, which was facing the back of the store, where the guy had unloaded the boxes that were still in the bottom of the store, remember, in the basement. So the pole camera saw him taking these boxes and throwing them into the trunk and then driving off. Well, whatever he did and he got rid of them, they never recovered those boxes. So I came up with this harebrained scheme. We came up with this harebrained scheme that we were going to say that they were bootleg CDs.
Right.
Because this was at a point in time.
It's in the trunk, just like last time.
Just like last time. And at this time, they were literally cracking down and prosecuting people for bootleg CDs. So we came up with this harebrained scheme that it wasn't flour or anything illegal. It was illegal, but it was bootleg CDs.
Yeah, I'll go to jail for bootleg CDs before I'll go to jail for, right?
There you go.
That's going to be a 2-year sentence as opposed to 12 years.
That's right. So we came up with this crazy story, and here goes the thing. The lawyer co-signed the story, and he met with my co-defendant, Brandy Hamrick, unbeknownst to her attorney, which she had a court-appointed attorney, David Schlash, which that dude was awesome. David Schlash, you're awesome. He worked for the public, he was an appointed, in the federal system. Sometimes they hire,
outside counsel. So
outside
sometimes
counsel.
it's the federal public defender's office.
That's what it is.
But
That's right.
if they're overburdened, then the court can
That's
give
right.
them it's like a JCA. They have a name for it.
That's right.
Like a JUA attorney.
That's
or
right.
It's basically
100%.
a regular attorney.
That's right. Her guy, David Schlash, was awesome, and he really cared about her. And he had worked for the federal public defender's office for years, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept telling her, like, she switched Because remember, she was dealing with him long before I even got indicted. So when I ended up getting indicted and then getting out and then hiring my attorney, I was able to convince her, even though we weren't supposed to be, communicating with each other and everything, but I convinced her that we can beat it if we just don't say anything. That's why I said women sometimes are stronger than the men. This dude and his co-defendant immediately cooperated. Now, they knew the federal system because they did it earlier in the 90s.
Right. Did she have kids?
She had a kid too.
Oh, shit.
This is
Okay, because,
amazing thing.
usually the kid, that breaks them immediately.
She's 100. One of the strongest women I ever met in my life. And we're still dear friends to this day. And I love her as a friend because she's just an enormous and wonderful and kind human. And she loved me and she didn't want to see something happen to me. And she thought she could beat it because I convinced her that, we can beat it. Nobody talked, everybody walked. Of course, we didn't beat it. We blew trial. It was a very sad day when we blew trial, but it happened. So we're meeting in secret.
Mm-hmm.
Me, my attorney, and her, which is, it might not be illegal, but it's super highly unethical of him to meet with another a co-defendant who has counsel. He's meeting with, and we're devising this plan together, all of us, the three of us.
See, I feel like he's a good lawyer now. I feel like that makes him a good lawyer. That's kind of what Saul Goodman? Is Saul Goodman? That's kind of a sneaky meeting.
I appreciated that aspect of it. I did.
But it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. And it's not only that it didn't work out. I feel like he was down to do that, but I also feel like he wanted to get his experience on my back. So I feel like he could have counseled me better. I feel like his major driving force to go into trial was to get federal trial experience because he was a trial lawyer. And I felt like...
Well, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet.
No, but don't let me be the egg.
Well, somebody has to be the egg.
Yeah, and I was broken. He scrambled me.
He
scrambled me.
He's just trying to... I'm just trying to become a better lawyer for the next guy.
That's what I think happened. But that ended up getting me out of prison. So the jury didn't go for it. I got on stand a lot. She got on stand a lot.
So the judge was right.
Cooked. The judge was right. And I came back 6.5 years later, which we can get into, and told him.
Yeah, so what happened?
I lied. So
you go to court. Did you do your legal work yourself? I
did it myself. After I paid.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so after I paid for this trial attorney loss, then I paid Bruce Harvey. They call him Ponytail. Still a practicing attorney in Atlanta. He's awesome attorney. So he did my appeal.
Mm-hmm.
We lost. I asked Bruce.
You hear that a lot in the federal system, by the way.
All the time.
We filed this, we lost. We filed this motion, we lost.
Yeah.
We appealed it, we lost.
Yeah.
We went to trial, we lost.
Yeah. But I felt that we should have won the appeal. Like there was actually merit to our appeal. So I'm not mad at Bruce.
Yeah.
I think Bruce Harvey did his job. I think he did the best job he could.
Right.
And I asked him before, like, yo, Bruce, doing the appeal. Like, because I knew the issues. I was like, do you think what's the deal with these judges? He said, I play golf with some of them. So... What he said.
Sorry, listen, the last podcast I was talking about, I said, you know how many fucking times I've heard these guys say, I know the judge, I play golf with him. Yeah. These judges must be playing golf 24 hours a day. Yeah. Every fucking guy I've met has been like, yeah, my lawyer, he was good. I thought I was a shoo-in. I gave him $100,000 because he played golf with the judge. They all say that.
Right.
I don't think these judges even talk to these lawyers.
Right. But Bruce did tell me that it was going to be an uphill battle with that appeal. He'd actually told my wife that she should save her money and we should cooperate.
Oh, see, there you go.
So I'm not mad at Bruce Harvey.
That was probably good advice.
I was asking him what was his thought with the judges with respect to the appeal. And he was not saying he played golf with the judges on the appellate court that I was in, because I was in the Fourth Circuit, which is the most conservative circuit in the United States of America, which is made up of South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and then also Maryland. But what he was saying is, he said, and this is the first time I had heard this phrase at that time, he said they're intellectually dishonest. I said, what do you mean by that? He said they already have generally an opinion. No, they have a result in their mind. He said they're result-oriented. That's what he said when I said, what do you mean by that? He said they're result-oriented. I said, explain. He said they have a result already that they want to come to, and then they just craft their opinion around that result. So I paid him a loss. That's direct appeal. You have a right to direct appeal. A lot of people don't know that. They think you have a right to direct appeal. You don't have a right to the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. But you have to apply for a writ of certiorari. I did that. I got, obviously they didn't accept it. They're only going to accept things that's going to affect large swaths of people.
Right.
They turn down so many cases, so I stood a little chance there. So we lost on that. That's when I went to work. That's when the magic happened. Because you got 1 year and a day, thanks to Clinton. It was no good. Thanks to Joe Biden, you creep. Because he wrote he authored, like, all this about, I used to think Joe Biden was good. He wasn't. The dude was racist. The dude authored the crime bill, the 1994 crime bill. He had all these years where he could have fixed it. He got into office and he didn't fix it. And say whatever you want to say about Trump. I salute Trump for this reason. He let a lot of people out. Like, Trump ain't scared, and that's what I respect about him. If he got conviction that, for whatever his reason is, I can't get inside somebody's mind or inside somebody's heart. But if Trump want to let you out, he going to let you out. He going to use the power of the pen. He going to use the power of the pardon. And he going to let you out. And he don't give a damn what anybody got to say about it. So, the dude is a soldier and he's a gangster with that respect. Joe Biden talk about, I'm sorry about the crime bill. And you didn't even let a lot of people out. Dude, you let some people out, but you didn't do enough. With the stroke of a pen, he could have let out every single nonviolent flower person in prison with the stroke of a pen. Mm-hmm. Because the power of the pardon is unchallengeable. And that's the thing that I say I respect about Trump, because he's changing the game. Presidents before, the only way you was gonna get out on a pardon is if you had millions and millions of dollars and you had access, and then they would let you out. But this dude, he lets his friends out. He lets people out for different reasons that you might disagree with. But who am I to say? All I do know is he's letting out some real dudes. And even if he don't let him out, he give him a pardon. And that's why I'm hoping he gives me a pardon.
I love the pardon. I love the pardon czar too, by the way. I'm gonna put somebody who's been in prison, been through the system. That's pretty fucking
no doubt about it.
That was some
black lady let her out.
Fucking dope shit, right? That
made
was like
pardon czar.
She knows how fucked up this system
Alice
is.
Johnson. Isn't that her name? I think that's her name. I hope I got it right. Somebody give me a Google check, because I want to correct it. Because Alice Johnson, I think she was serving like 44 years or like inordinate amount of time, unreasonable amount of time, and he let out with the stroke of a pen and made it the pardon czar. So glad you brought that up. That's the type of gangster moves that I respect.
That's her name.
That's her name, right? Yeah, I know about her. Because I'm making an appeal to her, because I've been out for so long. And I need that pardon because I'm in the community and I need to get this off my record. Because it was nonsense anyway. It was only a marijuana charge. So
you're 2255.
2255, I go to work.
You have 1 year to train yourself to be a lawyer.
That's right.
So I have to train. So I have 1 year, what takes typically 4 years of college, 2 years of law school. I now have some guy who's either got a high school diploma, a GED, or doesn't have anything at all, now has to educate himself for a 4-year degree plus 2 years of law school in order to now fight the federal government at the level within 1 year of their conviction.
That's right. Or your time barred.
It's fucking insane.
And Clinton did that. All the people that say that Clinton was so great, he did that. And you know what they did it? It's not in the interest of justice. These are the things that I learned when I was getting into my law work, certain things that blew my mind.
It's finality.
It's in the interest of finality. And you can be time barred. Mm-hmm. And that blows my mind. So I'm in prison now. And I'm going to work because I want to get back to my children and my family as much as I wanted to breathe. And I walked into the court, the law library. And there was a dude named Jack Cater who had been in prison. He's from Alabama. And he had been in prison on a charge. He was doing 30 years on a hard charge. And then he was doing 30 years. And I never forget, that brother told me when I walked in there, because remember I told you I was in the school for law and government. And I was in the school and I was trained. And I did mock trial. And I used to do debate in high school and then in college. So I had it in my mind that I'm going to find a way. I'm going to get in this law library and I'm going to try and find a way to get my sentence shortened. I had 12 and a half years. I never did no time in prison. My baby is 7 months. My oldest is 6 years. And I got 2 in between. I had 4 children. Mm-hmm. So when I walked into that law library, Jack Cater said to me, and I never forget, he said, in this law library, there's keys. There's books. You see these books all around this law library? He said they got keys on them and they say LED. That stands for Lawyer's Edition. He said in one of these books, he said there's a flaw in every case. There's no perfect case. He said in one of these books is the key to unlocking the doors and getting you out of prison. He said, you just got to find that case. And I went to work. He taught me how to shepherdize, which is when you find one case and it leads to another case and leads to another case, because every time a judge does an opinion, they have to quote other cases, which is case precedent, which is based on, that's what they basing their case on and the ruling in their case. And it just leads you down this whole, this whole maze of cases, and then you have to find a case. They say you have to find a case that sits on all fours. And when you find that case sits on all fours, it means it has to be exactly like your case. A lot of people find a case and they think it sits on all fours, but it doesn't. Yeah. Because the court or the government is going to find one little teeny little thing that differs, and they're going to say, well, you are not necessarily similarly situated, or this is a distinguishing factor in your case. You think it's like your case, but it's not. So that case doesn't get you out. But obviously I had to find a case of first impression. That's what I did. My case, I argued as a case of first impression that sits on all fours. So I was able to get out of federal prison. I was able to get all my convictions overturned after 6 years, 4 months, and 2 days. I mean, I'm not counting, but that's how much time it took.
What's the case? What was the case?
Y'all, this is crazy because I haven't talked about it. Oh, so I don't remember the exact case, but the way it's crazy. Right. I haven't talked about it for years, but the way the case was argued, I was able to get out on a 2255 because a 2255, which is a law which actually emanates from London, is half civil, half criminal. Mm-hmm. You have to find a case of constitutional magnitude because you're basically saying that you are being held illegally. That's what a 2255 is. It's a Latin phrase, and the phrase means free the body, release the body.
Right. Okay. So
the case that I found said that a lawyer, remember I told you my lawyer met with us.
Right.
It is a lawyer cannot willingly know if a lawyer knows or should have known that you were going to testify under oath, falsely testify under oath. He cannot put you under the stand and ask you questions. It's called a subordination of perjury. So when I found a case like that, which was actually a rape case, and I need to go back and research. I haven't talked about it for so long, but it was a case. And he cannot subordinate. The subordination of perjury means that if he knew or should have known, he can't put you on the stand and actively ask you questions. He can put you on the stand because we have the right to testify on our own behalf or not. But the lawyer can't participate in that. So the way I was able to win is because I was able to craft, and obviously he went against this because, you put your briefs in, then they put their briefs in. Yeah. Your lawyer becomes the government's lawyer.
Yeah, the government's their witness.
He becomes their witness. So he basically said, this guy's lying, he's making it up. So I was able to write the briefs in such a way to where, as I said to the attorney in my briefs, I said, Your Honor, my attorney knew that I was lying. I said, but if he didn't know, he should have known. And why? Because the story that we told was so outlandish and so ridiculous. Any competent attorney would have known, or they would have known I was lying, or they would have advised me not to go to trial and to take a plea. Because one of the things that he did, he advised me to go to trial. Even though the U.S. attorney was weak, so you got to have local counsel when you go to trial in another jurisdiction. My attorney was from California, so he had to bring in another attorney, local counsel. His name was Troy Gatchis. He was a Greek. It was a Greek guy, and he was local counsel because he knows the ways of that courtroom. So we had to hire him also. He reached out to me and said, "Listen, I know what your lead attorney is telling you, but Sam Marsh, who was the U.S. attorney at the time, reached out to me and said, think about your family, because you're possibly facing decades in prison." He said, my advice to you is to take a plea. He said, they want you to cooperate. He said, take a plea. He said, think about your family. Never forget that he told me that. And I told him, listen, you go tell that U.S. attorney we going to trial. Box him up. I had this bravado about me. I had some friends telling me, shit, you don't even need no attorney. I'll tell you right now, they had been in the federal system before. Mm-hmm. They told me you don't need no attorney. Let me advise you. Save that money, give me $5,000. You don't need it. Don't go to trial. Take a plea. Mm-hmm. But then I had other homies that didn't know. They had been in prison and everything before. You don't know who to listen to. But I got other homies that have been in and out of prison. I didn't really understand. They never been to state prison. So I listened to the ones that I wanted to listen to because I didn't want to do no time. So they telling me, nah, you can beat it. They didn't find no nothing. They didn't find no flour. You can beat it. They didn't understand conspiracy either. They didn't know.
Ghost dope.
So I told Troy Gatchis, yo, you tell that U.S. attorney to box him up. Get ready for trial. I'm all, I'm thinking I'm the shit. I'm thinking I know. Obviously, I got my head knocked off and I ended up losing. We go to trial. So why do I fault Dale Gallipo? Because he didn't tell me that. What he told me was, he didn't tell me that because he didn't do his homework. He didn't really even understand the sentencing guidelines. He said, well, why would you take a plea? The most time they could give you is 5 years anyway. And the plea is 5 years. He didn't break down the guidelines to me and explain that if I took acceptance responsibility, I didn't have to tell her nobody. I could have just told her myself, admitted to my involvement in my own conspiracy. I could have got safety valve because it was my first time getting convicted. So I would have went from, instead of going up the guideline, I would have went down.
Right.
I'd have went from 26 to 21. So instead of facing, like I ended up facing 151 months after they gave me 2-point enhancement for obstruction of justice. They gave me 2-point enhancement for money laundering and conviction with a drug conspiracy, which was nonsense, but they still gave it to me. A lot of stuff that they do is nonsense, but the United States of Attorney, this said United States of America versus Eric Girault. This is scary as hell. That's what it says. That's what I was up against. It's real. Everything is real in the field, but it's hard in the yard. Easy to get in, but it's hard to get out. I just want to say that. So anyhow, so I would have went from 26 to 21.
Plus, you lost acceptance of responsibility and a speedy plea. So you lost 3. Those were 3 more that you could have. Yeah. 3 more points you could have gotten.
I could have got down between 31 and 37 months. Probably would have got the low end for pleading guilty in my first offense. That would have been 31 months, right? So right there, we had less than 2 years. Then I could have got the drug program. I'd have probably got, been home after 20 months, 21, 22 months. That's why I say that Daryl Galipa was a creep, because he did not educate me, and a lawyer's job is to educate them. So you don't only have the right. People always hear, because you see it on TV, oh, you have the right to an attorney. We don't just have the right to an attorney. We have the right to effective assistance at trial, meaning that an attorney has to not only just give you advice, he has to give you sound advice, which measures up to the professional norms of that profession. And those are established by the ABA, the American Bar Association. And I went after him after I got my convictions overturned. I went after Daryl Galipa to try and to sue this dude, but California wasn't going for it. That was even harder than getting myself out of prison. But I did get myself out of prison. I went to work. I knew within a year I had to get it in. I got it in. I raised those issues that I told you. And that's a whole nother story in itself.
Well, how long did you fight it? Like, because obviously you got yourself, did you get yourself resentenced? Because if you still did 6 years, so it took you a year to file it, that process is what? A 1.5-year process?
That's right.
And then what? So then they bring you back, or did they just knock off?
No,
they brought you back,
like
resentenced you?
They took, so it goes like this. What you're really fighting for in the 2255 is an evidentiary hearing.
Right.
Now, evidentiary hearing is not the same standard. Like I told you, remember, it's quasi-civil, quasi-criminal. So it's not the same standard as a criminal trial. It's literally a credibility determination. And that credibility determination means if the judge believes you more than the other side, you win. Well, what I was arguing was that my whole conviction needed to be thrown out because of ineffective assistance to trial at the plea bargaining stage and during trial. At the plea bargaining stage, why? Because the advice that he gave me was faulty. Number one, he didn't explain the guidelines to me. Number two, he did not explain to me the strength of the evidence that the government has against me, because he told me, oh, you can beat it because it was stupid, because they don't have to have any drugs in the conspiracy. And anybody knows that has federal experience. They had people they had cooperating witnesses, which he knew. He should have told me. Then if I would have determined and decided I have to go to trial, then that's another thing. But he didn't. He gave me faulty advice. So he told me, oh, no, you can beat it. We can beat this. Oh, no, there's no drugs on the table. Oh, we can beat it. Lie, he told. So I educate myself. I'm waiting. I'm in prison for all these years. It all results in being there for like 6 years and 2 months. And I'll never forget the day, because you all go down, you're waiting for mail call. You're waiting for months and months and months. I'm waiting to get this letter, because I know that this is a point in time that it's coming, because so I write all my own briefs. It's called pro se. Remember, I found these cases, I start constructing, write my own briefs. I go in, I send the briefs. Then the government responds. Then you get to reply to the government's response. Then they get to reply to that. Then you get to do a rebuttal. Okay, we go through all of that. This process takes more than a year, maybe 2 years. Then it goes not directly to the judge. Ultimately, it's the judge who you were in front of, the trial judge, that's going to decide. But that's not who you go to. There's a buffer in between. It's the magistrate judge.
Yeah.
She does, in some jurisdictions, it's called an R&R, report and recommendation. In West Virginia, on the Fourth Circuit, it's called an F&R, findings and recommendation. Her judge was Judge her name was Judge Mary Stanley. My judge was the chief judge. His name was David Faber. I did everything. I knew everything about both judges, researched their cases and everything. He was appointed by Bush 1 in 1991, so I knew he was a conservative judge. So I'm waiting in the mail room. So this day they call my name. When they call my name in the mail room, I already know. So mind you, there was nothing else. We already put in the rebuttals to this, to that. The first one came back. I forgot, I left this out from the magistrate judge, where she comes back, her report and recommendation is to dismiss because it has no merit. Basically, just this is a joke. This guy's just none of it's true. My lawyer said this is not true. I'm making it all up.
Right.
They even put in there, the government put in there, this guy lied under oath at trial.
And now he's lying in his motions.
Now he's lying in his motion. And he's lying on this guy, his attorney. So now I get to do an objection to the FNR, the magistrate judge's findings and recommendation. I do all type of research on her. I find that the chief judge, David Faber, had never won against his magistrate's finding and recommendation. Never, not once. Whatever the recommendation is, basically rubber stamped. But I know everything had been exhausted. If I lose this, I'm doing all my time.
Yeah.
I'm going to do more than 11 years. I had already been down for more than 6 years, but I knew I had another 5 to go. So for months and months and months, a long, long time, you're waiting, maybe almost a year, for this to come back. But I know when it comes back, it's one shot, one kill. I had talked to people. I had a dude, Dino Iaculo. Shout out to him, Italian dude. That's my dude. He lives here in Florida. If it wasn't for him, I never would have been able to get out because he helped me so much instrumentally. We call him a legal genius. That dude did 25 years. He helped me so much. We go back and forth on the strategy when I was writing my briefs and everything. People was asking me, what am I going to do when I get back in there? I tell them, listen, I don't know if I'm going to get back in. Get back in, when I say get back in the court evidentiary hearing. But one thing I did know, if I get that evidentiary hearing, then they're going to appoint you an attorney. That attorney, the reason why they appoint you an attorney is because they don't want you to be brought back up to court and to be moving around and not know, they want somebody to be there to assist. Now, another thing that I knew is people think that you're the master of your own defense. No, you're not in a criminal trial. The lawyer is the master of your defense. When you hire an attorney, ultimately, you can testify on your own behalf, but it's the lawyer's job to decide which strategy is best. And he can overrule you if he wants. You can fire him if you want to, but it's him to decide. In evidentiary hearing, once they appoint you an attorney, it's up to you. I knew that. So they appoint you an attorney, and at that point, now I know I got the power to subpoena. I got the power to do all type of stuff. So I see him with that manila envelope. My hands get sweaty. I get nervous. I'm shaking as I get it because I already know that manila envelope is from West Virginia. And I know when I open it this time, they either bringing me back to court or it's over, it's dead. When you lose your 2255, forget about it. Remember, I'm not arguing actual innocence because one of the things that I learned through my research is if you can't win on the facts, then win on procedure. Mm-hmm. If you can't win on procedure, find someone to blame it on. So I did a combination of the two. I found someone to blame it on, and I went on procedure. So I opened it, and when I opened it, it said, you've been remanded back to court to the Southern District of West Virginia for an evidentiary hearing. And I ran straight up to Dino's room and started talking to him because he had helped me for years, that I was there for 4 years helping me. And the day had come, and people asked me, what you think is going to happen if you get back in the court? I said, if I get back in the court, I'm going home. I said, because, I know this case backwards and forwards, and I got so much case law, and I knew in my mind that I'll be able to argue effectively if I got back up there because I knew the things that I'll be able to do. I was able to subpoena Brandy, which she was willingly able to come. I was able to subpoena my mother-in-law because she had been privy with some of the conversations that I had with Daryl Gallipo and with Brandy. Remember, I told you in secret. Mm-hmm. I'm able to get these people to come, and they're going to testify under oath. Daryl Gallipo, so I knew I was able to subpoena him. So anyway, so I knew I was going back to West Virginia. So, within about a few weeks, they brought me back to West Virginia, and then I was in county jail there waiting for that evidentiary hearing, which is a credibility determination. It's whether or not the judge believes or not. And I just felt like if I got back up there, I was going to tell the truth, and I was going to be able to tell people. I was going to look the judge in his eye, and I was going to tell him the truth. And I just felt like I was going to tell the truth, and I was going to let the chips fall where they may. And I had conversations with people, attorneys that was in prison, that were really, really good attorney. One of them was a billionaire. And he had won, like, at the time, he had won the largest case in U.S. history. This dude was an oil attorney from Ole Miss. And these were Mississippi lawyers that had got caught up in the case, but I used to consult with them. And they told me, yo, if you go back and you tell that judge, and even in your briefs, they was telling me, don't admit that you knowingly constructed this plan with your lawyer, because if you do that, they can charge you again. Some people have been back to court and got new charges. But I said, nah, I'm going to tell the truth and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. Plus, I said, how could they charge me again?
They were charged you once for it, didn't they?
Well, they didn't charge me with it. They enhanced me after trial. They could have charged me, and I'll get to that. But I just said it doesn't matter. I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may, because, yes, I did lie, but my attorney participated in this. So anyway, I got back into court, and they brought me back to West Virginia, and I was able to subpoena Dale. He tried to duck the subpoena on many occasions.
By the way, if they recharged you, how can you recharge me unless you're going to recharge the lawyer? Like, if you believe what I'm saying,
that's right.
You have to charge the lawyer.
You have to charge him too,
and you can't recharge the lawyer without now dismissing the case.
That's right.
Right? Because it means you believe me.
That's right. Well, everything did get dismissed. All my charges got thrown out.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
But they would have had to charge him.
Yeah.
And I don't think, even though they knew that this dude was a scumbag, and I don't think they take kindly to a California attorney, because they made mention, well, that's a whole nother thing. But David Schlesch, basically, the West Virginia attorneys didn't like this guy coming up there with his $5,000 fancy suits and all of that type of stuff. So we ended up back in West Virginia. I decided I was going to go with it, and I went with it. So we went to West Virginia. Now I'm in the county jail for a couple of months before I go to trial. Now remember, now they give me George Lancaster IV, which is the attorney that they appointed to me. I'm up there. I get to meet with him from time to time. He'll come up there. He'll meet with me. They are going to subpoena George Galipo. They say he doesn't actually have to come to West Virginia because they're able to do it on closed circuit TV. He said, I got trials to go through, but he was trying to duck it for a long time. Yeah. But the federal system, they can put, I didn't know this, but I learned all of this. They can put it in the system where they know where any practicing attorney is if he's in a courtroom at any day. If you have to go to a court, you're in trial. So they showed up. They contacted the public defenders, the U.S. Attorney's Office in California. They found out where he was at, and they just sent some people to go to the courtroom that he was in, and they served him, telling him, yo, you got to come back to an evidentiary hearing for Eric Girault for a 2255. He's won the 2255, and we're subpoenaing you. You have to be there. So he had to show up on closed circuit TV when they brought me back to court. I'm there meeting with my attorney from time to time. We go back and forth on a couple of occasions. I asked George Lancaster IV, and I like him to this day, very thankful to him. He's a West Virginia in the public defender's office. He has his own practice, but he also does time, like we talked about, for the public defender's office, so they appointed him to me. So when I meet with him on occasion, they take you out of the jail. I meet with him on occasion. We actually kind of got into little lightweight arguments. I asked him one day, I said, Mr. Lancaster, let me ask you something. I said, do you feel that David Faber is a honest judge? I tell him the whole story about intellectually honest judge. He says, yeah, I think he's honest. I think he's a fair judge. I said, I know that he was appointed by President Bush and all of that. He said, listen, I think he's an intellectual. He said, I think he's fair, but if you can prove to him that you're right on the case law, then I think he's going to follow the case law. I said, let me ask you a question. No, I said, then we're going to win the case. He kind of laughed. I said, how long have you been practicing? He said, since 1985. I said, have you ever seen anybody win on a 2255? He said, no. Never seen it happen even once. I said,
one out of every 3,500.
Wow.
Gets relief. Not a win.
No, relief, that's right.
Some kind of relief.
Reduction in sentence, something like that.
Almost very seldomly happens.
Right. Thank you for that stat. Yeah. I can use that. I knew it was extremely small, smaller than what you could even imagine. Like you said, that's just some type of relief. Instead of 12 years, we'll give you 10.
Right. But a lot of people also file 2255s that have no merit too.
Right.
So you have to take that slightly into consideration. Right. But even if it's half,
100%,
that's still a ridiculous.
100%.
Almost no chance of it.
Told you it's a case of first impression. Right. He sits on all fours. So when he said that, I said, I'm going to be your face. I'm going to be your first. Mm-hmm. And I had complete confidence once he told me that judge would follow the law. The reason why that conversation came up, because we go back and forth on, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but how it should be argued and whether or not we will win. And at one point I told him, I said, listen here, Mr. Lancaster. I said, with all due respect, I said, I understand that I'm not the master of my own defense in a criminal trial. I said, but this is not a criminal trial, and this is my last shot. And I said, so you're going to argue it the way we're going to argue it. And he already knew, because I'd always, so every time we met on, I think 4 or 5 occasions. After we'd have this discussion, I'd go back to my cell, he'd leave, and then I'd start going crazy, with energy, writing and trying to explain to him to see my position. And I'd mail it to him. So this was it, I was tired of it. I said, listen, Mr. Lancaster, with all due respect, I said, I know this case like the back of my hand. I said, I've been studying this for more than 4 years. I said, and I done read the case law. And I said, I got myself in here. I said, I paid $40,000 to the trial attorney. I paid $30,000 to who I told you, Ponytail, Bruce Harvey, for the appellate attorney. And I said, nobody else didn't get me in here. I said, I got myself in here. I said, so you're going to argue it the way I need you to argue it because I'm telling you I'm right, or I'm going to write the prosecutor and I'm going to let him know that I need to get another attorney. I knew I could do that. Mm-hmm. So he said, okay, Mr. Girault. He said, we can argue it the way you want to argue it. And, the rest is history. He argued it the way I was going to argue it. We got into court. I had my co-defendant was there. I had my mother-in-law there to basically corroborate the story which was true, that we was meeting together. And then I had her attorney. This was the most powerful thing. Remember, I said David Schlesch, which was the appointed attorney to Brandy Hamrick, had been there for more than 30 years in that system. And he testified, but I knew he would because she told me that after I got on the case when they indicted me, he told her, Brandy, what's wrong with you? You're acting like a child. Because she had already maybe agreed that she would take a guilty plea. She wouldn't testify against me, but she would take a guilty plea. Then she switched the whole story. So he said, where are you getting this from? And he came and testified at that evidentiary hearing that he knew something was wrong. And that as soon as my attorney came on, she was acting really funny and something was really crazy. And so that, in the combination with everything and the way that I crafted the briefs, let the judge know, the magistrate judge, it's something here.
It's not your word. It's not your word. This other guy, you couldn't possibly get the other attorney to go along with this bullshit.
That's right.
Right.
And so that gave me an enormous amount of credibility. The mother-in-law, she's just taking his side. The co-defendant, she's just trying to help him. But once that guy, David Schlesch, who's from West Virginia, and she told me he couldn't stand my attorney, Dale Gallipo. And this joker's on closed circuit TV in California, once again in his fancy $5,000 suits. That's what somebody else told me. They said, that's where you made your first mistake, going up there all suited, looking like you got money coming from big town, Atlanta, Georgia. He said you should have went in there with just regular, maybe some corduroys or just a regular shirt. That's what he said. He should have had local attorney. He said, man, as soon as you walked in there with that California attorney, you was cooked. Because the way they sold the cases, this guy from New York that's living in Atlanta, trafficking these drugs into their town in West Virginia.
New York lawyer.
California attorney.
Oh, sorry, California.
Yeah.
California lawyer. Yeah.
My goose was cooked. So he didn't really have any good answers. They cooked him on the stand. So then after it was over, the evidentiary hearing, that is, Judge Stanley is there, and the government is still arguing. They're going to fight. And I don't understand it, because it's like they're not really interested, like we talked about, in justice. At this point in time, it was obvious I was telling the truth. Mm-hmm. They still arguing. The judge says, hold on, wait a second. Basically, I don't remember the exact words. She basically said, listen, everybody be quiet. Attorney government, sit down for a minute. She said, I heard the testimony. She said, I heard everybody here. I heard from Mr. Gallipo, and I heard from Mr. Schlesch, I heard from the other 2 witnesses, and I heard from Eric Girault. And she said, nothing that he said in this courtroom today leads me to believe that he was lying and not telling the truth. Once I heard those words, I already knew. I was out. Like magic. I already knew I was walking out. So then she went on to this long diatribe and basically told her, the government, listen, put together something to tell me why. You know what I'm saying? Why do we have any reason to continue to hold Mr. Jamal? Why is he not, I believe him. Convince me otherwise. But I knew that was all nonsense. She was just basically letting them save face. I'll give you 10 days or whatever. So then we go back. Remember, she already tell him, submit this to me. Then I'm back in the jail. And George Lancaster, my attorney, comes to me. And so when the marshals is walking me back, they said, looks like you going home, buddy. So I already know, I didn't want this, but I already knew. Because I already knew she undressed the lawyer. She dressed him down, and she did the same thing to the government. So I go back. Now, this joker come to me talking about, would you be willing to, because I know if I win that, the convictions are getting overturned. Everything throws out, and they're going to put me back in the exact position as if I had never gone to trial. They put you back at the very beginning, where I could go to trial again, literally.
They're not going to do that, though.
They're not going to do that. And I'm not going to do it, because I already knew. So he comes back and he's like, oh, would you be willing to plead out to 5 years, lesser charge, time served, and 5 years probation? I said, no, I'm not pleading out to no 5 years probation. He looks at me like he's crazy. And he's like, oh, Judge Faber he's about to go on whatever, vacation or whatever he's going to be in. You know, they want to get this over with quick. And I'm like, no, hold on for a minute, Joe. I'm saying, nah. I said, listen, I didn't already did 6.5 years. I said, I could do a couple more months to be going on vacation. I'll do this shit on the toilet. What you talking about? I ain't pleading. I said, I'm not pleading out to no 5 years probation. He said, let me ask you something. Why? I said, because I already did enough time. And I said, and as a matter of fact, I said, I might just want to smoke. And he said, well, you shouldn't be smoking. You shouldn't be smoking or doing anything illegal. And I said, it doesn't matter. I might want to. Anyway, he goes, he comes back a couple minutes later, and he's like, listen, they were going to let you plead out to a lesser charge, time served, because it carries a maximum of 5 years, and you already did over 6 years. And we'll give you a low, what is it called, like low level, like it'd be 1 year supervised release, but like minimum, like they're not going to be, you don't got to be going back and forth. So I said, okay, book it. So then go back to the jail. You got to be a couple of days. They got to make it official. I got to go in front of the judge now for him to make it official. So that's what happened. I went back to the county jail, you know, within a few days, and then I'm back in the district court in front of the judge that sentenced me, the trial judge that I went to trial with. And then they had that whole back and forth. And matter of fact, the government, it did come up to where they asked, wait a minute, should we charge him with perjury? The judge asked them, do you want to charge him with perjury? They were like, nah, we don't want to do it. I could already tell that I flipped the judge, because earlier, 6 years before, he told me, yo, listen, Mr. Girault, I believe you lied in my courtroom. I'm giving you a 30-month enhancement. This time I come back, I get a chance to say something to him again. And I tell him, like, listen, I was raised, as I told you earlier, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. And one thing that my mother always taught me, she used to always say, the truth will set you free. I said, so I had a lot of people, I'm telling this to the judge. I said, I had a lot of people that told me not to come in here and tell this story because I might get charged with perjury. I said, I was just going to tell, I said, I've said it in my mind. I said, let me tell you something. I said, when I was back here doing trial, Your Honor, I said, I lied under oath. I said, the jury knew I was lying under oath, Your Honor. I said, you, Your Honor, knew that I was lying under oath. And I said, and more importantly, my attorney knew I was lying under oath. And I said I was going to come in here and I was going to just tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. And when I told him that, man, I could just tell I flipped him. So he went to going and, like I said, so he formally threw all of the charges out. And then this was a plea agreement now. So I had to basically plea out to the 5 years that I told you about. Mm-hmm. And then just had 1 year supervised release. They had to make all that official. They had to go through the whole thing. And then he was telling, when I say I flipped him, he was on my side at this point. He was disgusted. He said in the open record, I believe that your lawyer committed malpractice. That's why I knew and used his words to go after this joker to try and sue him for professional malpractice, but I was not able to win. It's a whole nother story for another day. And then he started telling the marshals, he said, listen, I want, Mr. Girault had already served a few more years in prison than he would have if he would have had competent counsel. So I want Mr. Girault not to serve one more day in jail. And because my family was already here, he was like, his family's in the back of the courtroom. So then they started figuring out how they could do it. So they messaged Washington, D.C. It was getting close to 4 o'clock. So they needed to message Washington, D.C. so that Washington, D.C. could message my sending institution, which was in Alabama, so that they can get a release from the warden. And ultimately that happened. They brought me to the jail. The marshal says to me, I don't know who your God is that you pray to at night. She said, but my judge, the judge, he's never done this before, told me, she said, I've never seen this happen. And he told me not to leave the jail until you get out because he's afraid if I leave, the jail itself might drag their feet. And if you get caught up in here after midnight count, you might be in here until 5 o'clock in the morning. So she basically told him, yo, you got to get him out of here before midnight count. Because once I got transported back to the jail and everything, it was like 9, 10 o'clock at night. So they got me out of there right before midnight count. And my family was there. They had to change the clothes for me. And that's it. Voila, I walked out. Just like magic. The only thing I wanted was, the only thing that I wanted more than anything in the world was a Wendy's hot, the spicy Wendy's chicken sandwich with large fries. That's what we stopped at when we got out and rolled back. And really, I'm just processing all of this. And I didn't even know what to make out of it. The first person I called was my cousin, Eddie Pierre, you already know. And the reason why I wanted to call him, because he's an attorney. And I just knew he would have been super proud. That's the same one that called to see if there was a warrant on me that I told you about earlier. And I just knew he would be floored and proud and want to hear the story. Because when I get into talking this legal stuff, if people are not into like legal stuff, they like the first 5 minutes of it and then it just loses them. They're like, they don't want to hear it no more. It's only lawyers and people that really understand what I'm talking about that they don't mind hearing the whole story. I can write a book on this shit. I'm good at it. I was on my way home, and this was on December 20th of 2011.
See, if I was his cousin, your cousin or uncle?
My cousin.
Your cousin? Because I'd have been like, man, listen, bro, you were just re-indicted in the Fifth Circuit. just watch the fucking,
Just to mess with me,
the
right?
color drain from your face.
I just started crying. Like, what do you mean? How? Why? But yeah, so that's what happened. So listen, when I came home, I learned a lot of discipline in prison. Like I told you, I had read a lot of books when I was in there. One of them was Don King, and I just remember one of the things that he had said because he did time in prison. And Don King, one of the greatest boxing promoters ever, for those of you that don't know, he said you could either let the time do you or you can do the time. So I wasn't going to let the time do me. I did the time, and I said you can either come out bitter or better. So I came out better. I spent a lot of time in there and was able to get discipline and created a level of focus like a laser that I never really had before. I was clean for 6.5 years because I was in there. You know, you could get anything you want in there, but I chose not to. Because I was always too afraid that might mess up the legal work that I was working on. So I was too afraid because if I got caught, then you can get shipped, you could be in the hole. And I always had in my mind that I was going to get out one day. So when I came home on December 20th, 2011, I was in school January 7th, 2012. So literally a little more than 2 weeks later, I was in school full time. And that's when I ended up getting my bachelor's degree. And I did a lot of things, man. I majored in business with a minor in criminology, and I was able to go and study abroad in China, and I was able to do some cool things. Another thing that I did is I ended up teaming up with or partnering up with the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia, and I started doing community outreach where I would speak to at-risk youths, boys mainly, in high schools. And so I spoke to a few different audiences. I spoke to at-risk youths in high school to try and, let them know, what was going to happen to them if they continue to do the things that they was doing. I let them know, like, yo, you could do what you're doing. You could think you're tough, but they got somewhere for you, and they're going to do something big to you. And when you get in there, this girlfriend or whatever, this wife that you're going to have, she's going to mate with someone else. Yeah, so, I was able to talk to him in a way that I was able to reach him. So, so I found myself on the other end. Before I was learning from the federales and you're trying to move behind the scenes to where you don't catch an indictment or you don't want to come on the radar of DEA or the feds. Now I'm working hand in hand with them because I had a purpose at that point. So when I showed up at these high schools, I'm standing there with DEAs, gang task force, FBI, and U.S. attorneys. And they can't reach them without having one of us. When I say one of us, somebody that's been there before. You can't reach the youth. You could speak to somebody. This is what Nelson Mandela said. He said, if you could talk to someone in a language they understand, you could communicate with them. But when you can talk to someone in their language, now you can speak directly to their soul. So that's what I was doing, and that's what they was doing. So there's a lady by the name of Dr. Danielle Sweat-Wiley. She's an amazing person, a beautiful woman. And she's the director of the Community Outreach Division for the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia, where she grew up with her father in prison. So she had a passion for this type of stuff. So I was given a platform to be able to speak to at-risk youth in high schools to stop them from ending up in prison. I went into prison and jails so I could prepare people for what they were going to experience when they came home. And I went to universities to speak to the future decision makers, so those are the three different audiences that I spoke to. And I enjoyed it because I was able to make a difference and make an impact on people's lives, and because I was really good at it. That was one of the things that I was doing.
Do you know who Gail McKenzie?
I do not.
Okay, she was my U.S. attorney in Georgia, Georgia.
Your conviction was in Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know.
Well, I mean, I was indicted in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee.
Wowzers!
So but they consolidated them all in Georgia. But she was a U.S. attorney there.
Wow, I got to get you on my podcast, but we'll talk about that in a minute because you obviously got a hell of a story to tell yourself.
So what happened after? So after all of that, what were you doing for work? Like you went back to school, you graduated. That's whatever 4 years, right? So and then you're doing these other things. But I'm assuming that that going into prisons and doing all these things, are rewarding, but not. They're not paying your bills. What were you doing for work? Right, just regular for work.
Right. Yeah. So I did a number of things. I was working 2 jobs. I mean, I did end up getting small paychecks from the United States Attorney's Office because they was actually able to, get a budget for us and give us small paychecks. And but no, that wasn't enough to really pay the bills. I just supplemented it. I was driving for a friend of mine who had a transportation company. I was actually driving for TASS, which is the Atlanta Airport Shuttle Service, by the name of a good brother named Daryl Anderson, who has a ground transportation contract at the airport in Atlanta, which is the busiest airport in the world. So I was able to do that, get tips, and then I was also doing another job. I was doing debt collection. I called people up that old, and I would try and do that. So with those things together, then I also had a strong family unit, and I was able to live at a very reduced rent. Really, I didn't have to pay anything because I lived in a house that my father owned right across the street from my parents. So while I was going to school, they was able to help out because I needed a support system while I went to school. I had my children with me during the week because their mother worked out of town Monday through Friday, so I would have them with me. So I was, during that period of time, I was mom and dad, and I was going to school and I was working 2 jobs. So I would drop them off at school, then I would go to school, and then I would pick them up, and then I would work in between. So 7 days a week, I was always doing something, and then I ended up getting into real estate. And the way I got into real estate is I had a friend of mine, Tim Harvey, who has Wholesalers Are Us. I knew him, and I knew another dude of mine that knew another dude that had a house that they wanted to sell. And he wanted to sell it, and I knew my guy that had Wholesalers Are Us, he had a network of buyers. Mm-hmm. And then I knew my guy that had his friend that had a house he wanted to sell. So once we was able to assess how much money can be made on this house, we was able to lock in the contract at one price, and then we was able to sell it at another price. None of us had to have any money. The credit was never checked, none of that. Mm-hmm. And we was able to make $42,000 in a few weeks.
You flipped the contract.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
And that got my
It got your interest?
That got my interest. Like you could not imagine.
So I don't understand. They're never going to give me a check for this. And then they give you a check for it, and you're like, fuck.
3 of us split $42,000. We made $14,000 each. No credit was involved. It was incredible. Yeah. And then that's when I really got into that and started doing that and made some decent money. And then I got into this whole the BRRRR strategy, which is buy, rehab, refinance, and then rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. So then we would get these hard money loans, we would buy these cribs, we would rehab them, we would bring up the value, then we would snatch out the equity, and then we would pay off the hard money loan, and then we would just keep doing that. So I was able to assess a decent amount of properties.
That's what you're doing now?
That's what I'm doing now. That's what I'm still doing. Okay. I've been doing that since 2017.
Okay.
And I'm doing it, and I'm good at it.
In 2017, that's a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a minute. But yes, that makes money, and that pays the bills, and that's good. But what I'm doing now, and where my passion lies, I couldn't continue to do the thing with the community outreach. But there was a brother by the name of David Shands, and he has Social Proof Podcasts. And I was watching Social Proof Podcasts, and what he would do is he'd interview people that came from very humble beginnings, and they would have these extraordinary stories of success. They were primarily entrepreneurs, and they were all type of people from all different type of backgrounds, and young, old, white, black, Asian. He had a billionaire on there. He had just unbelievable stories. But David Shands had never been to prison. I was so impressed. This was just a couple of years ago when I started just following him, and each podcast that he would have would be like a masterclass, because he'd have these extraordinary people like in their field, and they would basically give you like a little hour and a half, 2-hour masterclass of what they was doing, how you can do it, whether it was in trucking, construction, whatever it was. He'd have them on their podcast, and you could learn so much, and you'd be getting these ideas. But I'm an investor. Like I'm not a carpenter. I'm not naturally gifted at construction. I didn't have any other special skill that I had other than hustling.
Right.
And I was always good with numbers and money, and I got into the investing, and I was good. But it really I always knew that I was good at speaking. I like public speaking. I enjoy it. And I really wanted to make an impact because I wanted, number one, I wanted to be remembered for something that my children could remember. And I didn't like the stigma that was on me and others that looked like me or anyone. They didn't have to look like me. Anybody, when you came from prison and you was branded with this felony label, which is why I want so bad, so deeply for President Trump to grant me this pardon. Why I wanted it so deeply is because, when I came home, I'm like, yo, I'm still the same Eric G. But I noticed that some people, if they think like maybe you changed or maybe you weren't the same person because you had been to prison, almost some people be a little scared of you and
You're dirty.
you're dirty.
Yeah.
And like you could never get that off of you, that stench off of you. And I didn't like it. And I wanted to do what David Shands was doing. Because this dude used to work at the Cheesecake Factory, and now this dude is a multi-millionaire. For real, he's one of the biggest podcasters in the game. As a matter of fact, I'm going to the David Shands Podcast Summit on the 7th and 8th in 2 days, on Thursday and Friday. So he was dope what he was doing, and I was like, this is amazing. So I said to myself, I said, man, you need to be able to, and then he would also encourage people. He'd say, everybody that does this, like, I want you to steal from me. He said, because everything when you do a business, it's always people that's just stealing an idea, making it their own, and then molding it, and distinguishing it from wherever they stole it from or making it better. Mm-hmm. And I said, yo, there's so many people. You have an incredible network of people, because we know people that have been down, that people are people. Like, you're not predisposed to committing crimes in America, even though America manufactures criminals because they manufacture all these bogus laws and lock people up for everything. I said, I learned that you got some of the most creative and and some of the smartest people on planet Earth in prison. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I bet I could do basically what David Shands is doing with a twist. If I could change the narrative on people that have been in trouble before or who have made any type of mistake, one story at a time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to come up with a podcast, and I'm going to start interviewing people like David Shands is doing, but I'm going to focus on people that have been to prison. And then it kind of just expanded because I realized when I came home, so when I was in prison, when I told you I got over, you remember when I talked about the king rat? When I got over it, and when I was able to get over that, I was free. I was in prison, I was free. They used to call me Obama. That's a whole nother story. Because I was working on my law stuff all the time. I was getting myself into shape. I was training with with the original Usain Bolt. I was training with him. I was training with Tim Montgomery. I learned so much about training and eating right. And I had a bedroom body. Like, I got into awesome shape, the best shape I had ever been in my life. And I realized that mentally, when I was first incarcerated, I was in a physical prison. I was incarcerated. I was in a mental prison also because I was trying to live on the outside while I was on the inside. So I said, when I got out of that mental prison in prison, and I was still physically incarcerated, but I was free mentally. And I was cool when I was in prison. I made a whole life out of it. And I read and educated myself, was taking online courses, looked forward to working out, and I was feeling good about myself every day. Every day, I was happy because I understood also that happiness is a choice. Like, we can wake up every day and we could choose to be happy in spite of everything. I tell people all the time, some of my best days, some of my worst days is better than most people's best days because I choose to be happy every single day. So I'm going somewhere with this, even though it seems like I'm a little long-winded. I am, because I got a story to tell. So when I got out, and I'm not going to get into the details of this, it just wouldn't be fair to them, but I was trying to get my wife back. She had moved on, Number one, she didn't expect for me to be home so fast.
Right.
Like, what the hell are you doing home? I'm immediate release.
I might have waited 6 years.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you had to do 11 years, dude. So anyway, I was in a mental prison in my mind when I got out. So now I'm thinking all this time when I get home, it's going to be good. But then I ended up in another type of prison. And I tell people all the time, and I say it to this day, being in a mental prison, even though I was in the free world, was actually just as hard, if not harder, than when I was physically incarcerated. So then In and Out started expanding in my mind. This is long before I ever did an interview. And I said, yo, I don't only want to have people share their stories. I don't want to limit myself to people who have been physically incarcerated. I want to be able to talk to people who have been in some type of prison, mental or physical, because you can be in a mental prison, whether it's your mindset, it's how you think that got you into trouble, or it could be like just having self-esteem or feeling good about yourself, or thinking that you're not good enough, or being under substance abuse, or being in and out of bad relationships. And that's how it kind of grew, and it took on a world of its own, to where now I have conversations with people who have been freed of some form of prison. And they're redemptive stories of people that have been there. I could speak to them in their language, because one thing I know and that I've learned, like I told you, if you can speak to someone in their language, if someone knows that I'm talking to them, or you, or whoever it is telling the story, because I share other people's stories in order to make an impact on others, if they know that you've been where they've been, then they're going to understand. You're going to be able to reach them better, because you're going to be more authentic. And that, I learned that from when I was speaking to the people, when I was doing the community outreach, because I was authentic, because those young boys that I was speaking to, they knew that when I was talking about them people that spoke them different languages, and them people that was giving me them things, and everything that I had been through, they knew it was real. You can't fake this type of shit. The stories that I'm telling, listen, I got stories to tell, because them stories was real. And you gotta give them that part of it to let them know, yo, I know where you've been. Like, I'm not just somebody telling you don't do this or don't do that. Like, these are not just fantastical stories. This shit really happened. And if you don't get your shit straight, you're gonna end up in there. So I was just able to reach them in a different way, and I wanted to be able to reach a broader scale, and that's what led to me doing the podcasting now, which is In and Out Podcasting, INNOUT, WW on all social media platforms. And I get a great joy out of being able to talk to so many people. I learn so much from these people that are doing amazing things, some of the smartest people in the world, some of the people that are doing some of the most amazing things. People don't know that they've been down before. If they haven't been to prison, they've been in some situation. When you hear it and you hear what people been through, that lets people know the book is not over. You're still writing your story, and there's more chapters to be written.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified of videos just like this. Also, please check out Eric's YouTube channel. It's In Out Podcast. We're going to leave the link in the description box. You go in there, click on it. Please subscribe. Check out his stuff. He's got some great videos, and he's putting more on there all the time. Thank you very much. See ya.